Hola, hola. My name is Ricardo. I am the host of the Lucha Jovers podcast here in the Voices of Wrestling podcast network. We are a Spanish speaking show dedicated to discussing and analyzing pro wrestling from all across the world. From AEW to CMLL, we talk about American wrestling, Japanese wrestling, and of course, Lucha Libre. If something big happened in the pro wrestling world, we will talk about it. So if you know Spanish or have a friend that knows Spanish or want to practice your Lucha Libre pronunciations, go listen to the Lucha Jovers podcast right here in the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network. Nos vemos por ahí.
This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
You are listening to the Flagship Podcast with your hosts, Joe Lanza.
The fucking sun sucks. I don't know what you people see in the sun. I don't know how you people do the sun. It's just the dirt worst. I want nothing to do with it. I'd be content never going out in the sun again.
And Rich Crage.
This is the dumbest show. I cannot believe these people. Some people pay us $10 to listen to the show live. This is what we give them for 45 minutes.
Been doing this for 10 years. Why?
We're bigger than ever. More people listen to us than ever.
Why?
And we are live on the Flagship Podcast. I am Rich. He is Joe. Joe, what's happening? How are you?
How are you?
Doing well. Happy to be back. Feels like it's been a while since we did a show. We had a crazy little schedule there. We did a Tuesday show, and then, man, it's been a while since we've done these Thursday Flagship. Had to get back in the rhythm. Figure out when to eat, when to walk the dogs, when to sit down, when to wait for you. You know, all this rhythm of a Thursday Flagship is all all out the window here for a bit. Missed a week. I got it back, though. We're back.
We're not doing enough. You want to do them every day? I'll do them every day. You want to do them every day?
Every day. No, I just meant the Thursday routine. The Thursday routine. Every day, that would be, we could do it easily. We'd do the show every day.
What would the schedule look like if you weren't wasting your time over there in that cubicle?
Punching that dumb clock. Yeah, that dumb clock is going to get, especially tomorrow, we're supposed to get a big-ass snowstorm, and it's one of those days where I'm like, man, this would be the day to do it, wouldn't it? But, we'll see. We'll see what happens when we wake up in the morning. But what would that schedule look like? I don't know. Monday, Thursday. I don't want to do a Tuesday one because like that, then we'd have to talk about Raw, and I don't want to talk about Raw.
I'm not talking about Raw.
I'm not talking about Raw. Like I would rather have a show that makes less sense being on a different day just to ensure that people don't expect me to ever watch and then talk about Monday Night Raw. Like it's not happening, you know. I'm not sitting down on Monday, turning that remote on, slap my hands together and go, all right, Monday Night Raw. Here we go. Not happening. It's just not.
What if you were able to glimpse into the future and you knew we could make double what we're making now if we did Raw reviews every week, every Tuesday. Detailed Raw review. Take notes, the whole fucking deal. Or we could make a third more than what we make now and never without ever doing a Raw review.
Absolutely the third. I'd rather the third for sure.
I would take that too.
My life is way too short.
Let me tell you something. I am a filthy fucking capitalist all the way. Okay. And I would take the third. I don't think I could subject myself. First of all, watching Raw for 3 hours every week where you can't skip anything because you got to do a review.
You got to do the notes. You got to think about it. You got to have a take. You got to come here on a Tuesday and have a take. I have to have a take about, Maxine Dupree doing something. I got to have a take about that. You know what I mean? Akira Tozawa danced. We got to have a take about that. We have to say things.
Yeah. Yeah, the having a take on the it's not what is that one? It's not Chase U is the NXT one. What's the Raw one with the fat guy and Maxine and Tozawa
they're what the hell's their little?
How are they called?
I forget what their little gimmick is. Yeah, because they were the obviously she used to be the maximum male models or whatever. Fuck, what the hell are they called now these days? I don't even remember. Who cares? Nobody cares. Nobody listening to this knows either. I think it's not Alpha Academy anymore, is it?
Alpha Academy.
Is it still Alpha Academy? I thought they got a new name. Is it still Alpha Academy?
Let's just go with Alpha Academy.
Great.
So,
because wasn't that what they were called before? Maxine? I thought Maxine changed it. Maybe did she enter? This is what I'm saying. I don't want to have these takes. Fuck it. No, Alpha Academy. Great. Takes. Love it.
Because we'd have to watch the show for 3 hours.
Otis.
This
Talk about
wretched
Otis.
show. It's impossible to watch show, which isn't ever good. Have takes like, no, Rich, I disagree. I thought the Alpha Academy segment this week was better than the Alpha Academy segment.
Joe, I think you're being too hard on this Piper Nevin match. I believe it was actually pretty okay. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think Caden Carter's showing some real potential, Joe.
Rich, you'd be back in that cubicle in a month.
I'd love to be in that. I would rather be in the fucking cubicle, to be honest. Yeah, if you'd rather say, Rich, I'm giving you an ultimatum here. You either quit that job and we have to review Monday Night Raw, or I'm done. This whole thing's done. The Patreon's done. It's all over. The Flagship's done. I don't know.
You're taking it another step. You'd be willing to throw it all away to avoid reviewing Raw.
If you said we have to, and a part of the agreement is that every single Tuesday, barring sickness or vacation or whatever, but every other Tuesday we're available, you have to sit down and you and I are going to talk about Monday Night Raw. I think I'd rather do the cubicle.
Right.
Honestly.
We're gonna log on at 9 a.m. and do a live show reviewing Monday Night Raw. A 2-hour live show reviewing Monday Night Raw. You would rather throw it all away.
I think I really would. That would be tough.
You'd say, Joe, I quit. Here's all the passwords.
Yeah.
They're all yours now.
Twitter's all yours again. Have at it.
Yep. And I would immediately delete it, by the way. First I would read all the trash you talk about me in the DMs now that I don't have access to it. Then I would just delete it. But yeah, you would throw it all away.
I think I would. I don't know if you gave me that ultimatum that we have to every single Tuesday, like at 9 a.m., like you said, bright and early in the morning too. It's not even like I have all day Tuesday to kick it around, and at like 7 p.m. maybe we'll talk about it. I'm like, oh my God, all right, fine, I'll watch an hour here, then I'll do this, and then I'll watch, like, you want 9 a.m. boom, which is, by the way, very early for you. But yeah,
wow, listen,
you staying up all the night? We could.
You got to get up pretty early in the morning to do a good Raw review.
You do.
You do. Pretty early. Could I talk you into a SmackDown review every week?
You could.
2-hour show.
2-hour show. 2-hour show is a big deal. That extra hour.
Can I talk you into the Blue Raw?
Maybe.
But see, those are on Saturdays, and you got to like pick berries and shit.
Right.
That's not going to work either. You know what I mean? Like, you're out there hanging out with the bees and pulling fucking weeds out of your garden on Saturday.
That is true. That would ruin my Saturdays. But that's, you know what? If you gave me that same ultimatum that you gave me with Monday Night Raw with SmackDown, I think I would try it out.
You gut it out.
I'd gut it out. I think I'm a hard no on Monday Night Raw. I'm just not doing it.
You ever watch Raw after not watching it for months? And you're like, this is fucking terrible.
Last night, I watched it for a minute last night. The nurse, or a couple nights ago on Monday, and I forget what was going on. The nurse was doing something, and I was like, you know what? There wasn't that many games on. I wasn't that interested in the college football thing. So I was like, you know what? Raw. Let's give it a. Oh my God!
Give it a whirl.
Oh, it was Chelsea Green and Piper Nevin versus Caden Carter and Katana Chance, and they're doing a bunch of dumb shit. Nothing looks good, and I'm like, what the fuck am I doing?
How bad are Caden Carter and Katana Chance? They fucking stink.
Oh, they're so bad.
They are the drizzle and shits, the two of them.
And then you'll listen to a review, and people are like, I don't know, they got pretty good potential. I don't know, these seem like they have something with these two.
Well, the problem.
What? You gotta have takes.
The problem is, you gotta have takes. But let's be honest, the vast majority of the people reviewing wrestling are fucking terrible at it, and they don't know what they're talking about. That's the other problem. They probably legitimately think that those people are good at wrestling. They don't have any. They have no frame of reference. They just watched, they watched Alexa Bliss and thought she was good because they're comparing Alexa Bliss to, give me someone from half a generation before her. They're comparing Alexa Bliss to Ashley Massaro, and they're comparing her
Trish Stratus.
They don't know.
Yeah. Trish Stratus is their through line of like women's wrestling.
Right.
You know, it's
they wouldn't know Judy Martin if she knocked on the front door. They don't know good wrestling, these people. So of course they think all these people cook. They don't fucking know the difference. So, these are the same people that throw themselves a party because they get a fucking media pass to the Royal Rumble. These are not serious people. It's a giant fucking clown show is what it is.
Oh, so, Joe, I hate to tell you here. I hate to break the news here. We did not get approved for credentials for this year's Royal Rumble, which continues a streak of, I don't know, about 11 or 12 years of us not getting credentials to any WWE things.
Well,
we don't try. For the record, we don't try, but, they don't reach out either.
Well, here's the thing. You don't even need to be there to cover it. You know what I mean? You can cover it. This isn't like, going to covering a baseball game. Like, you can cover the event better from your couch. Like, that's the thing. What these people are celebrating, let's be honest, these are not serious people. It's none of their full-time jobs. This is like they all have their little micro pods and that they do on the side, or they write about wrestling for, and it's like, it's not their job though. They're hobbyists. They like to call themselves content.
They're creators. They're content creators,
right?
Yeah.
So what they're celebrating really is that they're getting a free ticket to the Royal Rumble and what amounts to a backstage pass to the little fake press conference with Triple H, where when he enters the room, they'll all stand up and clap, right? They'll clap, and then, they'll ask him hard-hitting questions like, Triple H, great show. How did it feel to put on such a great show? Like,
what are the challenges of booking a Royal Rumble? What are the challenges of booking? There's a lot of, it's a lot of moving parts in a match like this, and
if they even get called on,
if they get called on, which they probably will not.
One of the match winners will come in, and they'll ask some kayfabe question. Oh, now that you've won the Intercontinental title, what's next for you? What would you like to do next? Which tells you they don't know what to ask, because that's a question. They're asking a kayfabe question, and it's something no one cares about. Like, even if it wasn't a kayfabe question, and it's just, it basically what it is a free ticket and a backstage pass, which they still have to pay their own way to get there, put up their own hotel. For 99% of them anyway, 1% of them might be real outlets that are paying for this stuff, and then they end up taking a net loss anyway. But what they get to do is tweet out that they're going to the Royal Rumble to their 1,300 followers that they have on Twitter, and and to them, that's it's a big deal in their little world, I guess. That's all. And they'll tell you that they're not reporters. They'll tell you that they're not journalists. They'll tell you that they're content creators. Here's the other thing about that. What fucking content are these people creating by being at the Royal Rumble? Right? Like, when a real reporter goes to a sports event to cover it, sit in the press box, they cover the game, they get in the locker room, they talk to the athletes, they talk to the coaches. That might lead to writing a column.
Right, they'll file a report, they'll follow a column, they'll do, you get something out of that, or you get an interview segment,
some insight.
Right, or you get something posted on a social or YouTube or whatever, a mostly somewhat exclusive interview with a player or a coach or whatever.
Something insightful, some kind of legitimate work is being done. For the fan of the sport or fans of the teams. What is this? These people claim they're content creators, and then they go to these shows. And believe me, I've been to the shows with these people. Okay, so it's not like I'm speaking out of school here. Okay, I've been to these things. I do this. Okay, what content do these people create when they go to the Royal Rumble? They're going to live tweet the show.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, which, by the way, you can do that from your couch. You don't need to be there for that. You can do a better job of it from your couch, by the way. Then you're going to go to
better Wi-Fi from your couch too. As somebody who has tried to go to shows and do that, not necessarily WWE shows, but AEW shows and some other shows throughout the years, much harder to just do it from the show, because either your phone's not getting any signal, or you had to do it on your phone, or you try to open up your laptop and you can't connect to the Wi-Fi, and it's like, fuck this is stupid. What am I doing here? I'd rather just be at home.
Do it from they're going to do it from their phone, like they do from their couch. Then they're going to go to the little fake press conference and probably not get called on.
No, they'll film it though. They'll film it though, like everybody else.
And there's like 4 people who will get called on. And if they do get called on, they're going to ask the most vapid waste of time in kayfabe question. And they'll defend it by saying, oh, well, everybody's outlet's looking for something different. But there's no defense for kayfabe questions. If you're asking kayfabe questions at these things, that means you're part of the show. And let me be as clear as possible. That means you're a fucking clown. You're a clown if you go in there and ask a kayfabe question. I don't care who you're working for. You're a fucking clown. Okay? And then they're going to fly home at a net loss because they had to pay to fucking fly out there and pay for their hotel room. But they got their free ticket and they got their little backstage pass. And now, where's all this great content? Do you ever see any of this great content that gets created by these content creators?
I never
What
do.
is it?
No, I
what
see.
What do they do?
I see 6,000 YouTube shorts of the same 5 clips over and over and over again. Just numerous people from different angles, posting a YouTube video or an Instagram reel of an answer from one of the press conferences or the media scrum or whatever, and that's it. And that's essentially all it is. So I don't know.
And by the way, the little Triple H fake press conference is on Peacock. Like, we don't even need you to cover that. We can watch that too.
We do. Every time we're doing these instant reactions, we're watching it.
We can watch that too. Like, you genuinely serve no purpose. What's happening here is all of these people are useful idiots. They get their free ticket from the WWE. They know that these people are fucking marks that are going to then fly out there and go to the show and be tissue soft in their coverage and tell you that Katana Chance and what's the other one's name?
Caden Carter.
Katana Chance and Caden Carter are a great tag team. And if they do get called on in the presser, they're gonna be nervous and stutter out some kayfabe question because they want to be invited back for WrestleMania and whatever other show that they want to go to and take a net loss on to, quote, create content. And none of them are creating anything useful that anybody cares about. And that's the thing. If you're a content creator, show me what you're creating. What are these people, with the amount of people that were talking about how they're going to the Royal Rumble and how they're content creators and all this, and like, okay, I can't wait to see all of this great content that gets created. What content is going to come out of this? The same content that comes out of all these shows. Nothing. They're going to go back to their micropods and talk about how they went to the Royal Rumble and okay, we all watched it on Peacock too. Okay, these people don't do anything, So I mean, all right, great. Go enjoy yourself.
Right. Take your free ticket. WWE, it makes all the sense in the world why WWE invites people. It's free publicity, basically.
Useful idiots.
Yeah. And they'll get enough publicity and enough positive, back pats and whatnot that, it costs them absolutely nothing. They shove you into a press box and you're good to go, or give you a seat up in the highest level, and it costs them absolutely nothing for that seat. So good for them.
Triple H has never been asked an uncomfortable question in one of these things. Not one time.
Still waiting for someone to ask what his wife's doing with her life now that she's left the only job she ever had. One of these days.
Or why he voted Vince McMahon off the board and then unanimously voted to bring him back 2 months later after the allegations came out. No one will is yet to be asked an uncomfortable question by any of these people because they're there creating content, Rich. That's the thing.
That's not content, Joe. That's salacious. That's not the time nor the place, Joe. They're creating content. They don't have time to create useful content, like get to the bottom of some stories. No. They're creating content.
I don't know what content they're creating. I don't see any of this content.
It's content. It's what
the same route.
It's what the modern idea of content is. It's just fucking bandwidth wasting shit. You know what I mean?
Something tangible. What content is being created?
A YouTube short that of 19 people sending the same answer of a guy. Like what was the one that when Cody and Jay were drunk at that one press conference, and 900 different YouTube accounts had the exact same clip of them drunk, but from a different angle. Someone was a little bit to the left. Someone was a little bit to the right of that. Someone was a little bit to the right of that. That's the content.
I don't even understand what you're saying. What? what tangible content is being created? You know, and then these people talk like they're Woodward and Bernstein. They're like, this is another great step in my career. I've worked so hard for this. What have you done? Like, what have you done?
Joe,
and where do you think you're going?
Look. You're jealous. You're clearly jealous, and it's fine. And that's and a lot of people called you out on that and called us out on that this week. Where because there was obviously people were kind of like, that's kind of weird that everyone's has the exact same tweet. We didn't say we didn't say anything, but the idea was anybody who has anything to say about this is just jealous that they didn't get a free ticket to Royal Rumble 2024 at Tropicana Field in lovely Tampa, St. Petersburg,
Florida.
Hold on a
second. We've been to these things.
We're jealous. I don't know. That's what I was told.
I don't want to fly to fucking Tampa.
I definitely don't want to go to Tampa. No. I've been to Tropicana Field, baby. I'm good. I think I don't need to go to Tropicana Field anymore for a Rays game, for a Devil Rays back in the Devil Rays days, baby. That was.
Here's the thing, though. I don't. Okay, in this specific instance, the reason I wouldn't want to go there is the only thing useful to me by going there would be to be able to ask Triple H some questions.
Don't think he's calling on you. I don't think Paul Levesque is calling.
And what are the odds? No, that's the thing. What are the odds you're going to get called on? And is that worth the expenditure? You see what I'm saying? Like, it's not.
It's not. Absolutely not.
It's not. Like, there's no guarantee you're going to get called on. We've been on dozens and dozens of these media calls. We've gotten press passes to shows and been to shows. And just because of the nature of pro wrestling, you're not really getting additional access that someone on their couch isn't getting.
Right. The locker room is not open. That's for people that have never been.
It's not open.
For people who've never been in a sports locker room or whatever. And I only did it at the high school level, so it wasn't as open for me, but I did do some college stuff as well. And when I did college, door was open to the locker room and you could just go and talk to the players, talk to the coaches. Like a lot of people went to the star player, or a lot of people would go to the coach or whatever. Sometimes I would go to the assistant coach. I would go to some of the other players, because instead of just sitting there and being with 4 or 5 other, which is essentially what these WWE press conferences are, is they give you Triple H, they give you Kevin Owens, they give you Cody, they give you tippy top guys.
You get Rhea Ripley sitting there in character.
Right. And you don't have the ability to say, you know what, no, I have an interesting question for X, Y, whoever. Like
here's the thing, you do. But what are the? It's like playing the lottery. What are the odds you're going to get called on?
Well, I mean, like if they opened the doors to the locker room and said, "All right, guys, there you go. The press time has begun. Doors open to the locker room, and you have a chance to walk over to anybody in that entire locker room and talk to them about something. And if you're somebody that's Texas based, maybe you want to go and talk to a wrestler about their history in Texas or something. You know what I mean? Like there's different ways that you can approach that, and that's how sports beat writers will tend to approach different things. They'll talk to a star player about something that's going on, but sometimes they'll talk to a secondary guy, a guy on the end of the bench, the guy that only got a couple minutes. Like there's a lot of different things you can ask to different people when you have the entire locker room at your disposal, and specific questions that you would ask in a one-to-one conversation, or you're sitting down with 1 or 2 other reporters or whatever, a whole different animal. And then here are 4 handpicked people. Now here's a sea of people in this room, and we're going to point to a couple of you, and then we're going to, I mean, that would be bad too for sports media as well if it was the same thing. And sometimes that does happen with larger press conferences. Obviously that does happen, but by and large your day-to-day after game, reporters or whatever are basically able to go into the locker room and talk to whoever they want to talk to.
Well, here's the thing. Here's what it comes down to. I want people to think about this. Why do you think people like Dave Meltzer, Mike Johnson, Brandon Thurston, the guys from Post, Sean Ross Sapp, why do you think these people aren't at every single one of these for AEW and WWE? Why do you think those sorts of people, and also non-wrestling legitimate news outlets, like there was some USA Today reporter at the last AEW one, and that was asking Jericho-related questions. Why do you think these people aren't at every one of these? Because there's no value to being at these things. it's not cost effective for PW Insider to fly Mike Johnson around the country once a month, or for Dave Meltzer to fly himself around the country and put himself in a hotel to cover these shows. Dave says it all the time. He says one of the big reasons he doesn't go to WrestleMania is it's harder to cover when you're there. Yeah. He's like, it's harder, and it makes it harder to do my job when I'm there live. So I don't like going live. Remember when WrestleMania was in San Francisco, Dave was like conflicted. It's a 10-minute drive, but he's like, it's hard. I'm going to have to go home and watch the show again because I can't cover it properly.
Right. You can't focus as much when you're there live. You tend to get lost in a little bit of the crowd reaction, or you just get lost in everything.
You can't hear the commentary,
right.
And you don't see how to, the backstage stuff is harder to, you know what I mean? So it's like, anyone who tells you that they're going to these things because they need to create content and they're there to cover the show, I mean, it's nonsense. It's utter nonsense. They're there to get their free ticket, and there's, and I guess there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
But
they're really not.
But let's be honest about what's happening.
Right, call a spade a spade.
They're there to network with each other. Okay, half of them admitted it when they got. I noticed when they were getting pressed on it on Twitter. A lot of them were spinning it to, oh, well, I'm the reason I'm telling everybody that I'm going is so I could coordinate with my friends. And I've already set up a bunch of dinner plans. Well, okay. Well, I mean, and that's okay too. I mean, there's nothing wrong with, a get together with your internet friends because you're all going to be in the same city for the same wrestling show. But don't try to sell me on that. I mean, here's what it is. Let's call it what it is. You're bragging because you think you're a hot shot because you got a free ticket to the Royal Rumble and you want to show that to everybody. You're not sending that out to coordinate with friends. Why would you do that instead of sending something to your group chat or sending out a text message? Why are you going to send out a text that's going to go to thousands of extra people who don't need to see it? You know what I mean? It's nonsense. You're flexing. Just say you're flexing. Just say you're flexing. And don't shroud this in the idea that you're going there to create all this great content. You're not. You're not. They're bringing you there because they know you're going to kiss their ass and be tissue soft and be nice to them because you want to go to all these things now. That's what it is. So just say it. Because I'm not seeing all this great content that's being produced by these alleged content creators. I don't know. Maybe someone can fill me in on what all this great content is that's being produced. This insightful, fantastic content.
Right. Link us after the Rumble. Link us after the Rumble. Because you know what? I'll say, Joe, Instant Reaction Live, immediately after the Royal Rumble, we're doing that this year. That's good content. That is people creating content, baby. We're going to go 2.5 to 3 hours to a bunch of insane breakdown of everything that happens. Like that's a big reason why people, will say, hey, well, you guys say all this shit about the press conferences, but you don't, when they're in Chicago, you don't really try to go anymore. And I don't really try to go because I'd rather just come home and do the Instant Reaction Live, to be honest, because I think that
tell you why
has way more value.
That makes more money. That's right. Where the value is for
right.
us. The thing that makes me more money than anything. Tell people what makes us more money than anything.
Instant Reaction Live.
Go ahead and tell them.
Instant Reaction Live.
Instant Reaction Live produces more subscribers than anything. When AEW pay-per-views come to Texas, if I were to go to the shows in Texas, I would lose money because then I can't do the Instant Reaction Live. Rich can do some of them in Chicago because then he can make it back to the house in a reasonable time.
Right. I race back. I find an ambulance to go behind so I can come back in enough time. I text you halfway. Oh, I'm almost there. You're always like, calm down. It's all right. But yeah, I rush home. The last bell happens on the main event. I get up. I start walking towards the entrance, make sure nothing's going to happen. And then the second that I know the show's over, I'm racing out and I park in a special spot to make sure I get out just so I can get home in enough time to do it because, yeah, that's where the value is for me. So, yeah, it's like, I do understand people are like, oh, you guys are kind of hypocrites because, Rich has an opportunity to go to those. Well, I do, but I don't really care to go to them because I don't think there's that much value in them because I think we now know what the score
value
is.
In it.
Yeah.
There's no value. And then we were on all the calls and never got called on. What do you want me to do? And then they didn't want us on the calls anymore for whatever reason. Never asked, don't know, don't care. But we were on every call for what? 4 years?
Yeah, from day one
How long has the company existed?
Yeah, day one until, well, hell, I was there for the All In press conference. I was there for,
you were there in person.
Before it even happened, yeah. About 4 years, yeah.
And I've been on any call that we've ever gotten an invite to, Impact, any other company, New Japan. So, there's just no value, which is why, back to my point, the serious people who are there to really do a job and really create something, they don't even go to these things. Once in a blue moon, they go. If it's near where they live, or they're going to be in town, or it's a especially big show, they don't go because there's no return on that investment, because you're really not getting access. You're getting what amounts to a little back, especially with WWE, especially with those. They trot the wrestlers out there in character. What is anyone getting out of that? Nothing.
Content.
You're getting nothing out of that.
You're getting content.
What content? I still don't understand.
You're getting Rhea Ripley saying something, and then you posting on YouTube, "Mommy talks about milk" or something like that. 100 people have the same fucking "Mommy talks about milk" video up on YouTube Shorts, and a couple of them, pop up on TikTok, and then that's the content they create. Is Mommy says something that's oddly tangentially sexual, and then it gets posted everywhere. That's the content.
Well, here's the thing. Even if you do get some good content, one of these fellow people that are one of these parasites there are going to aggregate it on you anyway.
Yeah.
So, that's it's all a fucking cesspool. These parasitic aggregators, and it's like, and that's what they are, by the way. Listen, I've been waiting to unleash this. Start tugging your collar.
I guess we're doing it. Yeah, I guess we're going.
Look, I'm not gonna go after anybody. It's just the idea of aggregation, and we've been doing this for 12 years now, and I don't have any respect for it. I just don't. And it's not just wrestling. You see it outside of wrestling too, but what we do is wrestling, and and we all know there's a lot of people who have literally gotten rich off of aggregation. And, I get it. That's what makes money. I totally understand that. But I don't respect it, and I don't have to respect it. And, let me explain to people how aggregation works, first of all, because there's a lot of people out there who will defend it. And there's a lot of people who claim that they do it responsibly and ethically, and they're good at it and all this. And it's like, it's a parasitic relationship is what it is. Okay, here's what these aggregators do. They spend their day combing the internet for news that other people have broken and content that other people have created. And then they benefit off of it by taking that news that someone else broke or content that someone else created and then turning it into an article for their site. And the idea being, as long as we throw a little link in there and let everybody know where it came from, my hands are clean. And that's why it's a parasitic relationship. Aggregators are parasites. You're taking someone else's work and you're benefiting from it, doing very little work of your own. And this idea that there's good aggregators and there's shit aggregators is completely false. There's absolutely shitty aggregators. The ones that will not credit or link or do anything. They're just they're just useless. They're total pieces of shit. Those are content thieves, is what they are. Okay? So I agree that there's bad aggregators. There is no such thing as being great at aggregation or being a good aggregator. That does not exist. You can be terrible at it, or you can do the bare minimum and be competent at it. That's it. I was sweeping my kitchen floor earlier today. Okay? Sometimes the kids will say they want to help sweep the kitchen floor. So I'll give the 6-year-old the broom. And the 6-year-old is terrible at sweeping the floor. When the 6-year-old is done sweeping the floor, it's usually worse than when it started. Right? And then I got to take the broom and come in and do the job properly. The 6-year-old is terrible at sweeping. I'm competent at it. No one on this earth is great at sweeping a floor. You know why? Because it's just sweeping a floor. You can't be great at that. It's a menial, easy job that anyone could be taught to do at a competent level. That's what aggregators are. You can't be great at that. You can only be competent at it by putting in a little credit and putting in a little link, which you then benefit from almost entirely. Because let me tell you something else about how it works, okay? The aggregator comes in and aggregates your story. They put out a tweet with your story that they have aggregated. The aggregator will tell you, oh, hold on a second. I'm doing you a favor. I'm giving you exposure. Now your story's reaching more eyeballs because I, the aggregator, I'm helping you. It's bullshit. They'll put out their tweet. Let's say, I don't know, random site, Post Wrestling, aggregates something that you do. Okay? How many followers they have on Twitter? 9,000 or something like that? They're not a tiny site, but they're also not a massive Twitter account that has millions of followers. They have like 10,000 followers. Let's call it 10,000. While Rich frantically looks it up. Okay?
It's somewhere between 8 and 10. So, I'm not opening up Twitter for God's
sakes,
but it's somewhere around
10,000.
Let's say 10K.
So,
Send 10K.
So they aggregate your story.
Same as us, about the same as us.
They tweet it out to their 10,000 followers. Okay. How many impressions is that tweet going to get? Give me a number, Rich. You can even estimate high.
These days, I don't know, 1,000 to 3,000 probably max that you're looking at.
So let's say it gets 5,000 impressions. Okay. We'll estimate high. All right. How many of those 5,000 impressions are actually people who read the fucking tweet and didn't just scroll past it as they're mindlessly scrolling through their feed?
Probably a very small percentage.
But let's go high. Let's say 50% of them. Is that a high estimate?
That's probably pretty high. Yeah, I was going to say high would be like 40, but yeah, let's go 50. Go 50. Why not?
So let's say 2,500 people out of those 5,000 impressions read the tweet. Now, how many of those 2,500 people are compelled enough by the headline where, by the way, they usually give away the lead, so there's no need to click, will then click through to the article, estimating high. A fraction of those.
Now, especially when on X, formerly known as Twitter, very small. I'll tell you that was like very small in any era of Twitter. Increasingly small in these days of Twitter.
Here's the thing: we actually know the statistics, and if we told you,
not good,
you wouldn't even believe us how low it is. A tiny fraction of those 2,500 people are now clicking the article. Okay, now. A tiny fraction of those people are now reading through the article in its entirety and getting to the very bottom of the article where it's set, where you get your little hat tip, where it says, this is from Voices of Wrestling. Here's their link. If you're lucky enough to get a link. But since we're talking about Post, yeah, you'll get a link. They're competent.
Right. They do it. They do it the right way in a lot of ways. A lot of places now will not even link back. Or the classic would be parentheses hat tip to the aggregator who aggregated it initially, and now you are re-aggregating the aggregator's original thing, because that used to happen a lot as well. It would be like hat tip wrestlingnews.co for the transcription or whatever, and it's like, wait, hold on a minute. You're not even doing any of the work. What?
Let's not even get into sub-aggregation.
Like, okay? What?
We're just dealing with direct aggregation.
Right, but then the link to those guys, I'm like, fuck off. That's one more step that no one's going to take to be, hat tip to wrestlingnews.co or whatever, just throwing out a random site for the transcription or whatever, with a link to wrestlingnews.co's link to our transcript. I'm like, fuck off. No way.
Yeah, but let's not even complicate it.
Right.
So in this analogy, Post is me sweeping the floor. They're competent. But it's still just sweeping a fucking floor, okay? So you'll get your credit and you'll get your link, okay? Now a fraction of a percentage of those people who manage to get to the link will actually click the Voices of Wrestling link to go see the original work, right? And then a fraction of a percentage of those people, Rich, we're down to single.
Yeah, we're splitting atoms at this point. We are splitting atoms.
And if you think I'm exaggerating, we've been doing this for how long?
I got numbers. I got receipts.
Okay, so a fraction, a tiny percentage of those people who actually click your link to read the original work will then become regular readers or regular listeners of that original work. The number is statistically insignificant. Trust me. Trust me. I have the numbers. That's what aggregation is. So when these aggregators sit here and tell you they're doing you a favor, they're full of shit. It is a completely one-sided relationship. One-sided, parasitic relationship. So when these aggregators get all up in their feelings and tell you, that's the last time I'll aggregate you, my answer is, thank you. I never wanted to be aggregated in the first place because it kind of makes me sick that you're benefiting off of my work, off of what I produce. Because that's what aggregators do. And they wrap it up in a package like they're doing you some kind of favor. Okay? They are not. You get almost nothing out of aggregation. Now, if Justin Bieber or who's the one dating Kelsey? Or
Taylor Swift. I like how.
Or Taylor Swift.
Who is the one dating Travis Kelce?
Yeah.
The name escapes me. What's her name? Oh, yeah, Taylor Swift. Right.
Now, if they want to throw me a retweet, I'm not going to argue.
Yes. Taylor, please.
Because now those micro numbers might be 100 people.
Yeah, Taylor Swift has 94.9 million followers. So, yeah, if she wants to throw a retweet on the Instant Reaction Live, that would be okay with me. That's fine. Would appreciate it, actually.
And the other thing these people will tell you, and I saw this defense, oh, well, everybody aggregates.
Oh.
I know someone who doesn't. You want to tell them who, Rich?
Voicesofwrestling.com. Does not, will not, and never will.
Anything.
No.
Ever.
No.
Have we ever aggregated a story ever?
Not
one
once.
time. One
not
time.
Once.
Will we ever aggregate a story ever? One time.
Not as long as I'm running the website. I'll tell you that.
And listen, don't say everyone. Don't say everyone. Everyone does not aggregate. That's not true. That's not true. I'll gladly make less money. I don't want that money. I couldn't sleep making that money, to be completely honest with you. It's gross. It's parasitic. It's parasitic. I have no interest in it. I don't need your aggregation. I don't want your aggregation. I'll do just fine. I don't need you making money off my work. So it's all this. But for God's sake, if you're going to do it, and we know you are, we know they're all going to do it. I don't think it's out of line to play by the person who creates the works rules. And I know the response to that would be, that's never how it's worked. Well, maybe it should. Maybe it should. Maybe if someone does a podcast that you find newsworthy enough to aggregate for your benefit, because I just made that clear. Don't act like it's for my benefit. It's for your benefit. Almost entirely. Okay? The least you can do. The very least, and I mean the very least, is when that person politely, and apologizes to Joel if he didn't want this Band-Aid ripped open again. I apologize.
I was going to say, you're just chucking in hypotheticals here. but now you've...
That's right. Totally hypothetical situation.
Right, completely hypothetical.
That person...
If you had a podcast, let's say, and you did not like the way that you were being aggregated, if you then politely, the host of that podcast...
politely said, I would like an @ or a link in your tweet, please. Politely as possible.
Hypothetically.
No snark. No snark. Please and thank you. I'd appreciate an @ or a link. And your response is to ignore them. How am I the asshole here? How am I the asshole? Then if I hypothetically tried to contact the person who owns the site privately and didn't like the way they responded to me, and their solution was to take down the tweet, which is fine, by the way. Please do. Joel didn't escalate it. He said one thing. He made one tweet publicly.
Joel, hypothetically.
Yeah. Hypothetically, this person didn't escalate it.
Let's call him Joel. I'm just going to throw a name out there, Joel.
They politely asked for an @ or a link. That's all they did. That's it. I don't understand. And if the response is, oh well, that we can't do that because it will throttle our engagement and our hits. That's not my fucking problem. That's a you problem, parasite.
All right, take it up with Elon, if anything.
Take that up with Elon. You're the parasite in the relationship. And I don't even mean parasite as a slight. This is scientific. There's a parasite and a host. And in this relationship, you're not the host. Your hits, your clicks, your engagement being throttled is not my fucking problem. And I don't want to hear about how it's always been done. Maybe it shouldn't be. Because you're not doing us the favor. We're doing you the favor. Because we're the ones producing the content you feel is newsworthy, that you are then using to your advantage. I don't think it's out of line to politely ask to play by our rules. That's all. That's all. If someone disagrees, all right, go fuck your ass. I don't care. That's how I stand on it. I don't think it's out of line to ask to play by our rules, especially if it's polite. And in this hypothetical scenario, it wasn't anyone from our side who escalated the situation. It wasn't anyone from our side who resorted to ad hominem attacks, calling people cockroaches and little boys and stupid little boys. Wasn't us. Wasn't us. It was the site that everyone thinks is the bastion of professional behavior. That's who it was. Okay? That's all. Carry on with your aggregation. Leave us alone. I feel like I could speak for Rich and everyone else. I don't want to be aggregated. You know why? Because this is always what it leads to, a fucking headache. Even with the ones that are competent floor sweepers. It's a headache.
Right. And the bad ones, a lot of times what will happen is misquoting and not listening to what we said right, or getting it third hand or fourth hand or whatever.
And that's what happens when it's the shitty aggregators.
Right.
Is now I have to spend half a day or a day and a half or 20 minutes on my show clarifying my own words. That's someone else fucked up.
3 years,
that it
actually.
wasn't even my fault.
We're still, people are still on you and us and whatever about Will Ospreay going to NXT, which was never said. The opposite was said. The literal opposite was said.
Example.
But still 3 years to the day, or whatever it was, roughly 3 years.
I wrote a news article that is still up behind our paywall, debunking that Will Ospreay was going to NXT UK, which he didn't, obviously, by the way. My article debunked it. Sourced. I did the work. And because of bad aggregation, there are people to this day, as Rich said, who think that we reported that Will Ospreay was going to NXT UK. And that will follow us forever.
Right. Everything that gets reported now is, oh, these guys don't know shit. They said Will Ospreay was going to NXT.
Correct. And that's one example.
Mm-hmm.
I can give you more. I'm not going to do it, but there's so many more. So I don't have any respect for aggregation. I just don't. I don't. That's all. Anything to add, Rich?
I got nothing else. You said it there. Nice hypothetical situation you laid out there.
I'm more than happy. I know how, it's like, we want to be the redheaded stepchildren and the uncouth corner of the wrestling media. That's fine. I leave us alone. Don't aggregate us. Okay. I'm not interested in it. But I'm not going to sit here and you can't sit here and tell me anything I said was out of line. Don't fall for this bullshit that aggregators peddle, that they're doing some service, or they're in the right, or they're helpful. It's all for their benefit. It's a parasitic relationship to their benefit, not anyone else's. And I know it's hard to avoid. And let me say something else. Rich, I don't follow news. I don't follow politics. But I do follow sports. Okay? And one sport I follow very closely, as people know, is baseball. And right now it is free agent season in baseball, as you know. And you can answer this, so I'll just ask you. Anytime a free agent signs and one of the baseball writers on Twitter break it, what do every single one of the other baseball writers do? You tell the people. So it doesn't just sound like it's me doing it.
Yeah, they'll usually say, blank had it first. Robinson,
with an at.
Yeah, at Robinson, Juan Soto signs, New Year. I think that just happened, an hour ago or whatever. He signed a 1 year, $31 million.
Rosenthal had it first.
Right.
At Bob Nightingale. At whoever the fuck had it first.
Mm-hmm.
And their outlet. But these wrestling sites will tell you that that's impossible to do. Oh, I can't do that. That's going to throttle our...
No, it's a throttle their engagement.
That's going to throttle my engagement. Well, yeah. You're saying the quiet part out loud.
Right.
You're saying the quiet part out loud. Well, because when I follow sports, which is like the only thing I follow on Twitter, anyone who aggregates or does this, even that dopey Dove Kleinman NFL guy, who's like a big guy.
That guy sucks.
He credits every time.
Right. When he's got it right, we're in trouble.
He credits every fucking time.
I'll have to see if Rex Chapman, NBA, if he credits people or not.
And I'll tell you, there's some wrestling places getting better at it that will at people every tweet. There's some that are getting better at it. One of them is one of Rich's enemies and banes of his existence, so I don't want to put them over. Rich, I got to tell you, I got to call it like I see it. Wrestle Purist is doing a much better job with that.
I'm glad. Hopefully they've learned.
They're putting ats in every single tweet.
I'm glad. They weren't before.
They're putting links and everything.
They weren't before.
I don't go to their site.
Yeah, they weren't before.
I know they weren't before, and I know that annoys you. I get it. But if at least if you're going to aggregate, you do it in, especially just do it in the fucking tweet. That's all. If someone asks nicely. So that's my stance on aggregation. I don't know. I've been thinking about this one.
That's been percolating for a while now. So I'm glad you got it out. I'm glad you Mount Lanza erupted there, so we could get it out of the way. You've been trying to do it for 2 weeks now, and I'm glad we got that hypothetical situation out there. So there you go. Nothing good. You know what you should just do? Delete Twitter. It's honestly not bad. It's the first good step to do. But yeah, hopefully things improve in 2024. But probably
what
not.
These sites could do is produce quality content that's going to earn the money instead of having to aggregate. How about that? I don't know.
It used to be the way. I mean, hell, when we started, that's what it was. 12 years ago. That's my goal here with what I wanted with Voices of Wrestling to be, and it seems kind of silly now given what directions it's gone. But Grantland had the Masked Man who was writing at Grantland, which I thought was kind of cool that he was writing these long form pieces about not necessarily reviewing matches, not necessarily reviewing shows, but these long form pieces talking about the history of wrestling and things that were going on in wrestling or whatever. And obviously he's taken a very different path over the last couple of years. And even the stuff that he was writing at that time wasn't, great, but I thought it was okay. I thought it was decent stuff. I just liked that an outlet was doing that and being creative about it and breaking the mold of results and match reviews, which is what everybody else was doing at that time. And I said, I think we can do this better. I think there's something we can do a little bit better. And even if it was a review of a show, people were just giving you the moves. You know what I mean? Here's what happened. Here's what happened. Here's what happened. All right, there you go. This guy beat this guy, and here's what happened. Here's what happened. Here's what happened. So part of me enjoyed the fact that, hey, let's get creative about this. Let's write, the initial idea of the website was podcasts with people talking about why they love pro wrestling. That was all it was, why you love pro wrestling. That evolved into let's write about things going on in pro wrestling, not necessarily why you love it, but let's do big picture stuff about pro wrestling. Let's not just feel like we need to report news or talk about whatever the most salacious thing is at the time. What are you passionate about? That's why I tell every single person that ever wants to write for the website. They always say, well, what do you want me to cover, or what should I cover? And I say, I don't want to tell you anything. My goal is I'm never going to assign you or do. I don't want to assign you something. I don't want to say, you person write about this, because that sucks. I've been in that position, and that sucks, and that's not fun, and there's no creative juice to that. My goal for everybody that contributes to the website is, what are you passionate about? That's it. That's all I tell people. If you're passionate about something, write about it. If you're passionate about a certain match, write about it. If you're passionate about a certain show, write about it. If you're passionate about a certain promotion, write about it. That's what it all is. And that's what produces stuff like the Masashi Mochizuki piece that Case Low put up this week, which is one of the best things we've ever done on this entire website. Everybody, by the way, go and read that right now. We're doing a Dragon Gate 25th anniversary thing, because it is the 25th anniversary of Dragon Gate this year. So obviously Mike Spears and Case Low from Open the Voice Gate are spearheading a project about this, and Case wrote an unbelievable piece about the entire career of Mochizuki, and it's great. It goes through every aspect of his career, every bit of his career, highlights great matches, there's links to great matches. It's just an incredible piece of, that's what I want to do, because nobody else is doing that. That's content. You know what I mean? That's creating fucking great content. Kevin Hare's piece a couple of weeks ago about Eddie Kingston. That's passion. That's content. That's the shit that I want our site to be known about. That's the stuff that I want Voices of Wrestling to be known about. Jay Michael, you said Jay Michael. Nobody writes about wrestling like Jay Michael writes about wrestling, and I love that. He'll send me, and it's 50,000 words about El Desperado, and I'm like, great, love it. You know what I mean? And he gets into, well, his mask was like this on this match, and that meant this. Great. You know what? You're fucking passionate about it. I don't care if it gets 10,000 views or 1,000 views. You're passionate about it. You want to write about it. Go for it. That's the shit that we're doing that nobody else is doing anymore. And that's sad, and that sucks. But I guess the good thing is that there's no one else doing it. So if you want passionate, well thought out, intelligent shit about wrestling, I guess you got to come here. Got to come to voicesofwrestling.com.
Well, you look. We'll never be the biggest site. We're happy with our place, our little corner. I say it all the time. Too small to be big, too big to be small. Right. So, that's what we are. But we're never going to aggregate. I would never reduce myself to that. We're not going to do that. We know we can make more money doing that. I could sit here all day and comb the internet and aggregate and be competent enough at it and go out there and chase clicks like these other sites do. I'm not going to do it. That's just, but if you're going to do it, you can't get mad at people. I think it's completely out of line to get upset at the original creator if they want it aggregated their way with a very simple request. Nobody asked you to hop over the fucking moon. We just said, put a link in your tweet. If you don't want to put links in your tweet, don't aggregate us. All right, great. They're not aggregating us anymore. That's fine. That's fantastic. We all agree to that. That's not a threat. That makes it better for everybody. Believe me, we don't want it. But I don't know. Maybe if you haven't broken a news story in 5 years, you need to aggregate. I don't know.
All right. Voicesofwrestling.com, Voice of Wrestling Podcast Network. All right, let's get into some of the actual stuff we wanted to talk about this week.
I told you, no collar tugging. I told you.
No, you're good.
Was I good?
Was I all right? You're all right. You're all right. Good. I don't know if you were good. You were all right.
You going to get some DMs or no? You think you're going to get some DMs or no?
Yeah. Might get a few less ballots sent in for the match of the year this year. That's all I'll say.
You think you might... You think you might miss an invite to certain things you usually get to participate in?
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
That's all right.
Listen, I don't know. I'm out of line, Rich. Just let me know.
That's fine. Yeah, I'm used to it. We've been doing this thing for we'll be passing 12 years here in a little bit, right? So it's like I can't be surprised about it.
13 years. Coming up on 13 years.
13? Are you kidding me? Really?
This will be 13 years in February.
All right. Yeah. Shit.
Without a single aggregated article ever. So.
And a damn good podcast. Mostly every single week. So that doesn't review Raw. And we'll never review Raw.
No Raw reviews. No aggregation.
I think at one point, no, that's not true. We reviewed Raw 25 or whatever. Remember that show? We did an instant reaction live for Raw 25. Show fucking stunk. That was the one that was so fucking terrible. Remember? They were at the Manhattan Center and it was awful. And they were at, it was something like the club in DX. And we were just like, we just came on this show. We're like, fucking, what the hell is this stupid show? And then we never talked about Raw ever again. Anyway,
one raw review.
Yeah, we had one, but we learned.
And no aggregation.
No aggregation.
Doing all right.
Doing pretty damn good. Pretty damn good. All right, let's get to it.
Every year. Growth every year.
Every year.
I'm just saying. I'm thankful for all the supporters and the subscribers too. We have subscriber growth every year.
Mm-hmm.
Just want to say that one more time. Okay.
All right, this week. We're
Yes.
finally into it. Let's talk about a bunch of different stuff. We're going to preview TNA's Hard to Kill, a show that TNA themselves is doing a very poor job of previewing, but we'll try to do just as bad of a job of previewing TNA Hard to Kill coming up this weekend. NWA Paranoia. Yes, there is an NWA show this weekend. You probably don't know about it, though, and that might be by design. So we'll talk a little bit about NWA Paranoia. MLW's King of Coliseum. A fight/Triller TV event from last week. I've watched it. You have watched it. We're going to review MLW's King of Coliseum because the world of MLW, of course, never stops. Contract season updates. We're going to talk about a lot of movement going on with contract season. You got Kamille, Clark Connors, Alex Coughlin, Gabe Kidd, ELP, Matt Riddle, plus some major changes at the executive level for both AEW and WWE that we want to talk about. Of course, Poster Tony is back at it. And actually, let's start with that. We got New Japan news and notes that we're going to get to here in a little bit, but let's start with Poster Tony and a very weird week on X, formerly known as Twitter. You had Jinder Mahal versus Hook. Then you had Tony Khan versus Eric Bischoff. Then you have Dave Meltzer versus Eric Bischoff. Can you try to explain in the best way possible what the hell all happened and how it all came to this point? And then we'll kind of talk a little bit about maybe some method behind this madness that was going on over the day. So how the hell did this even begin? Because I just woke up one day and like Jinder Mahal and Hook were feuding on Twitter, and I was like, "What the fuck is happening? What's going on here?" I guess Hook really involved. I guess Hook really wasn't that involved.
Hook wasn't involved.
Yeah.
You're asking in earnest how it started?
Yeah, kind of.
Oh well, Tony Khan caught wind that Jinder Mahal would be challenging Seth Rollins for the fake world title and the third world title deal that they have or whatever, and he took. Tony being a poster, he had taken some shit because Hook last week had put out in the pre-tape a challenge for the title, and he was saying, "Now hold on a second, why am I getting?" Basically, he didn't tweet in my voice. He said, "Hold on a second," paraphrasing.
I bet when Tony gets fired up, it's not that different than a Joe Lanza.
He's like, why am I getting shit for Hook when Jinder Mahal literally has not won a match in 365 days and he's getting a title shot and nobody's giving them shit for this? Why am I getting shit for Hook? And that just set off everything else that you saw. Right. So the implication
the dumbest
is that
people ever mobilize, as per usual.
Yeah, and not just that, but the usual people who take advantage of such things like Eric Bischoff getting in the mix and all your usual grifters and whatnot. And it turned into another case of just, the super ugly tribalism, which has taken, I have to say, I've been around a lot of years, and I have been around for the Monday Night War with the WWE and WCW fans, and throw in a dose of the ECW fans into that if you'd like. In the early days of the internet, I was around for the New Japan Noah fans, the Green Ring versus the Strong Style fans on the message boards back in the day, and that got nasty. That got as bad as you could imagine. This is the worst that wrestling tribalism has ever been that I have ever experienced.
Well, it's a lot easier to be performative, and it's a lot easier to monetize your performative bullshit too.
I think that's the key.
Right.
I think that's the key, and it's not just even from fans. I think what's different about today's tribalism versus those other examples is now the media is involved and they have either picked sides or have been perceived to pick sides, right? So Dave Meltzer, for example, probably as we speak, if people want to pull up the Twitter app, is probably arguing with someone who says that he's on AEW's payroll or never says anything bad about AEW, or is artificially, propping up AEW's bad ratings with some kind of spin. So even though Dave really doesn't have a side in this sort of wrestling culture war, the perception is he's on one of two
Correct.
sides, right? And so even people who aren't on a side necessarily, there's a perception that they're on a side, and perception is reality when it comes to things like this. And you have other people in media who very clearly are on a side. Eric Bischoff is on an anti-AEW crusade / grift. He just is. Jim Cornette is on an anti-Tony Khan, anti-AEW, anti-Young Bucks, Kenny Omega crusade. He just is. Dave Scherer, who I fear is not well, is clearly has a personal issue with Tony Khan.
Oh my God, yeah. His stuff is bizarre to the point where, like, I honestly think people should just, like, ignore him because I like you said, I don't think he's well. Something is very, very wrong with that guy.
Something's off.
Like Eric Bischoff, I understand. Like we always say, the guy's not dumb. The guy might play dumb, but he's not dumb. He knows how to monetize, and he knows how to take advantage of certain things very well. He's a smart and intelligent and crafted guy in that way. I don't know about Dave. I don't know about Dave Scherer. It's something.
And with Cornette, it's personal issues.
Yeah, Cornette. That's how he's always been. When he gets mad, he just gets fucking real mad, and that's the end of it.
Jim Cornette, believe me, I don't think he's running a grift. I think he really hates the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega. Mm-hmm. Okay, I believe that.
Certainly,
he hates them, and I don't think he's bullshitting about that. To see Bischoff, he's running an angle. Eric Bischoff is performative. He's running the word grift gets tossed around a lot erroneously. He's running a grift. That's the definition of a grift. That's what Bischoff's doing. I don't know what's going on with Dave Scherer, but my point here is in this round of, wrestling tribalism, it has the added element of the media being involved. And in some cases, whether they like it or not. And, and these media people are influential. Some of them know that they're influential and take advantage of that. And others, may not be intentionally doing, but you don't ask to be a tastemaker. Years ago, someone got mad at me. I don't even remember what it was about or who it was, and that's not important. But someone got mad at me years ago and said, you're a tastemaker, so you shouldn't say things like that. Some wrestling opinion. And my response was, I don't ask to be a tastemaker. You might be right. I don't know. Maybe I am a tastemaker to some extent. Maybe if I come on my show and put over fucking All Japan, I'll turn people on to All Japan. But I can't think. That's not my problem. I can't think about that. I just go on my show and I tell you what I think. So you can't. You don't get to tell me I should hold back certain opinions because I have to keep in mind that I'm a tastemaker. I don't think it works like that. That's not what my show is. It's not what my show will always be. Rich, you and I telling people what we like and don't like about wrestling. And then the chips are going to fall. If that's going to influence people, so be it. If it isn't, so be it. We have just as many people who yell at us and call us idiots, our own fucking listeners, as people who tell us that they nod in agreement. Yeah. So, go read the reviews today of my Dynamite review. They all disagree with me. So, it's whatever. I just have to tell people what I think. But, the point here is, the tribalism is even worse because the media is involved in this round. And like you said, it's easier for randos to monetize their opinions. And we're seeing a lot of that.
Right. Back when I was a 10-year-old on AOL chat rooms arguing about WCW versus WWF or whatever, I was just doing that because I was a 10-year-old in an AOL chat room, and then I closed it, and that was the end of my day. I just did it because I thought it was fun, or I enjoyed doing it, or I enjoyed the banter back and forth. I wasn't seeing a check from it. I wasn't getting money from it. A modicum of like a lot of it's just, modicum of pennies being thrown at these people, but that's enough to make them think, or think, oh, this is the path towards relevancy, or this is the path towards me becoming a millionaire by tweeting and being an opinion maker and that sort of stuff. Never did I think as a 10-year-old.
This is a path towards getting invited to the Royal Rumble.
Right. Yeah, exactly. A path towards getting a free ticket to the Royal Rumble. I was a 10-year-old in an AOL chat room being like, fuck you, Dean Malenko rules. You know what I mean? And argue with people for hours about Dean Malenko just because I wanted to. Just because I have nothing else to do. I was bored and I didn't have that many friends. So that's what I did with my free time. That's a whole different thing than what's going on now. Like you said, now you are able to monetize that. You are able to turn that into something, or you're able to turn that into a nugget of a thing that you think is going to turn into something. So it's a completely different game. Completely different game.
Yeah. And, on top of that, and all of the other obvious reasons, there's more social media than ever. And, I feel like it might be an unfair comparison because do I think that during the Monday Night Wars, it would have been just as bad with the same level if the technology and the social media we had today were transferred to 1998? Yeah, I do think it would have been just as bad. I do. But but it wasn't, and we can only deal with the reality.
Right. ECW 1993 would probably be pretty bad too. Making fun of WCW and all that sort of shit with Heyman running it amok.
That's more 90. That's more 94,
95. I should say. Yeah. Sorry.
And you can listen to Jovember to Remember to get the full history on that. Right on the Voice of Wrestling flagship Patreon. So, but yeah, no, absolutely. There's without question. People get mad at Tony Khan. Circling back to the topic at hand, they get mad at Tony Khan for tweeting things that are rather innocuous compared to what like Paulie Dangerously or Joey Styles or what Paulie Dangerously would have other people say on a random ECW episode in 1994. I mean, what Tony is saying is nothing. People lose their minds over Tony saying, hold on a second. Why does Jinder deserve a title shot when Hook doesn't? And that's like tissue soft compared to the kind of shit that ECW, the bombs they used to lob, especially at WCW. They were much harder on WCW than they were on WWE. But yeah, for all those reasons, but it's gotten really bad and really nasty and it's ugly scenes. But yeah, the funny thing is a lot of fans and even Eric Bischoff came at Tony with, well, you can't complain about Jinder Mahal having not won a match in over a year. Rich, while I'm talking, do you mind pulling up Jinder's cage match so we can get the facts right on that?
Yeah. Let's get Jinder Mahal's cage match.
There aren't many matches on it.
Yeah, so these guys always hurt.
To figure it out.
Guys hurt very often.
And they never use them. And but they came at Tony with the idea of, hold on a second, you forget Hook. You just gave Abaddon a title shot, and she wasn't on TV for 2 years or whatever. And what's so silly about bringing up people like Hook and Abaddon is, with the exception of Sting, they have the two best one-loss records in the entire company.
Right.
I swear to God, Rich, Hook is, I looked this up earlier today. Hook's record in AEW is 43-3. And that's like, I don't even think those losses are like one of those is a singles match, I think. I could be wrong about that. But the point is he's 43-3. Abaddon is 46-5. And her record was better before she got the title shot because she lost. Abaddon had gone like a full year without losing. She was undefeated for about a year. These people were bringing up examples. Abaddon's the complete opposite of Jinder Mahal.
It's the worst example you could make.
It's the worst.
Hook's actually the worst one because the guy never loses. Because Hook always wins.
The guy never loses, and he's on TV all the time. You can at least say, all right, Abaddon's never on TV.
Right.
But the thing about Abaddon is Abaddon won a number one contenders match to become the number one contender, which I'm not thrilled with. I preferred when the rankings were around. But winning a number one contender match is like standard issue how you get a title shot in pro wrestling these days. And that's what they did with Abaddon. So how the hell are people bringing up Abaddon as an example? 46-5 and was 46-3 at the time and won a number one contenders match. And they think they have these gotchas. That was Eric Bischoff's big gotcha. Somebody tipped off Eric Bischoff that Abaddon hadn't wrestled on TV in a while. And he threw that in Tony Khan's face when Abaddon never fucking loses. And neither does Hook. So those were terrible examples to use. If you tried a little harder, there probably would have been some decent AEW examples because they got away from the rankings, which I wish they would go back to. But then it turns into a culture war. Then it turns into Tony Khan was disrespecting Jinder Mahal, which he wasn't. He was disrespecting the booking. He didn't say, Jinder Mahal hasn't won a match in a year, and oh, by the way, I think he's the drizzling shits. He didn't say that. All he said was he didn't win a match in a year, and he's getting a title shot. And why is that okay? He didn't even say it wasn't okay. He just said, why is that okay, and what I'm doing not okay?
Also, who cares if he's making... I think Jinder will be okay.
Also, yes, who cares? I feel like an idiot for breaking this down.
Wrestling. Fuck off. It's like, God, man, what has happened to this business where it's like, he's being mean to Jinder Mahal. Don't be mean to Jinder Mahal. It's like, who cares? Jinder doesn't care. Jinder's a multi-millionaire at this point, probably, man. That guy's been getting paid for years. The guy's wrestled 5 times in the last 2 years. I'm sure he's perfectly okay with where his life's at. I don't think he's tossing and turning. I don't think he, was sitting down at the dinner table and read a tweet that somebody got, oh, God damn it. How dare he say this about me? How dare he?
Yeah. But, they picked horrible examples. It's not like they gave Jay Lethal a title shot after going 0-5 in the Continental Classic.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, that would have been preposterous. And by the way, here's the difference too. Okay. AEW fans, more so than WWE fans, do shit on things like that. They don't like illogical booking and illogical title shots. I complain about that shit on my review every week. I've complained about people getting title shots that shouldn't and bring back the rankings, right? So, to bring it up and try to make that point, especially when Hook is 43-3, it just doesn't make any sense. But anyway, that's to catch you up. That's what started everything, Rich. And then, of course, Bischoff got into it with Dave Meltzer as an offspring of this, and it's just but I tell you what, Dave utterly destroyed Bischoff multiple times in response. Bischoff probably should have laid low, because Dave's been starting to take off the gloves, because Dave knows where the bodies are buried.
Yes,
Dave knows where the bodies are buried. He brought up that Bischoff once bragged about averaging 5,500 fans a year in WCW, and AEW beat that figure this past year. And Eric claims that AEW is dying and their business is falling apart.
Right.
So, things like that. And, also mentioning that, that he knows that because Eric asked Dave to prepare him for an interview with Michael Landsberg. And Dave did all of Eric's work for him and helped prepare him for the interview with Landsberg. And see, these are things that Bischoff doesn't share with his sycophants. That he was on the phone with Dave Meltzer after every episode of Nitro, going over each segment and asking for Dave's advice.
Right.
See, now Dave is starting to take off the gloves.
Right. That doesn't get brought up in 83 weeks. Yeah, it doesn't get brought up in 83 weeks. Is that, I talked to Dave about every single segment of these every single month for weeks and weeks and weeks and months and months and months and years and years and years. That doesn't get brought up. Instead, it's this dirt sheet, bicycle seat sniffer, idiot Dave Meltzer doesn't know shit. You know what I mean? Like,
or when Eric is scared shitless because he's going to do a media interview and he doesn't even know the attendance of his own shows and he has to ask Dave. Like, that was my biggest takeaway from that exchange. Like, why did Eric need Dave to tell him the attendances of his own shows before he went to do this media interview? But that's classic Eric Bischoff. The guy's just he's in the
Joe, he wasn't very good at running WCW because he had a little bit of a period that was doing good and then a lot of period where it wasn't doing good. So I don't think he was very good at running WCW. It would be my hot take on that.
Yeah, but the tribalism has certainly gotten out of control and it's gotten ugly. And, it's and I do think it's the Bischoffs of the world who extrapolate it. They pile on because it's good for their business.
Right.
It's because Eric Bischoff plays to that crowd and other people see that that's a viable strategy, whether it's other media people like your Bischoffs or what have you, or whether it's randos on Twitter who say, hey, I could pay for this check mark and, I could just tweet the most innocuous slander towards AEW, mostly towards AEW. Let's be honest. They're the ones who are mostly under attack, or WWE. And I can get, 5,000 impressions, 4,000 likes. And I don't even have to try. This is easy. It's just like, it's hooking fish on the end of a line. I mean, because people just eat it up because everyone has chosen sides and they're all looking for the next great burn. It's embarrassing to watch from afar. From afar, it's
incredible. It's even more embarrassing that we're talking about it here and thinking of all these people spending all of their time on this thing, on this app, doing all this shit that has just no value whatsoever. Just fucking an atrocious waste of time for everybody.
But but circling back to Tony, I could see why sometimes he gets defensive because it can't be easy to constantly have all this shit thrown at you. A lot of it that's not true.
But he's going to the place where the shit is. Just don't go there.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Twitter is the place where
log
the shit
the
is.
fuck off and run your wrestling company is what I would do.
He has, I thought he was coming around at that ROH presser when he started to talk how, he needs to, how he's spending less time on Twitter, but it doesn't appear that way. It's, it's, I think he has an overinflated value of Twitter. Now, I'm sure he pays people to tell him what Twitter is worth, he would be really the only major brand that feels that way then. Because, look, we talk about it all the time. And just for the listeners, think about it. Forget wrestling, okay? Set wrestling aside, because wrestling is this weird thing. And, what major brands have a hardcore, in-your-face presence on Twitter? I don't think there's any, Rich. Can you think of
very few at this point? Very, very few at this point.
I mean,
is that stupid Wendy's thing still going on? The dumb Wendy's Twitter that everybody still...
Yeah, but that's just they were just doing memes and
right.
witty retorts. But I mean, what major brands? Are there any automakers? Are there any tech companies? Are there any name your business restaurants who just have a massive presence on Twitter, and you could tell that it's a key component of their marketing and their business? Who name them? There's none. I mean, that should tell you all you need to know. We talked about it earlier when we were talking about aggregation. I mean, Rich can give you facts on the click-through percentages on Twitter versus other social media sites. And Twitter is by far the worst. Am I right or wrong?
Absolutely right. 100%.
And by far the worst.
And I've consulted with other companies. I've consulted with my shoot job. I've helped other companies realize that you're not getting anything off Twitter, so don't worry about it. Don't bother. You want to post a couple things here and there because you want to have a presence on there, go ahead. But do not devote your time to this. Devote your time. If the goal is to get clicks, if your goal is get engagement and quote-unquote brand awareness, then sure. If you want to kind of shoot fucking blanks out there on Twitter, great. Go for it. Maybe you'll hit. I don't know. Probably not. But if your goal is to sell things or to, get click-throughs or get people to go to your website, you're wasting your time on Twitter. Stop doing this on Twitter.
Yeah,
go to Facebook. Go to Instagram. Go to YouTube. Go to all these other places that are far more engaged. People are on Twitter. They don't want to get off of Twitter. People go on Facebook a lot of times to get off of Facebook, to get a click to somewhere, to find something they like. A lot of it is that they for a while there it was to talk to people, to reconnect with people or whatever. But then Facebook kind of became the dashboard of the internet, where a lot of people will scroll, and then they'll see something and they'll click on it, whether it's an ad, whether it's a news article, whether it's a post, a group, whatever. That's what happens. Instagram, a lot of times that's people kind of scrolling for photos, watching videos or whatever, but a lot of purchases get made on Instagram as well. The numbers are there. There's huge advertised numbers on Instagram. People are on Twitter to be on Twitter. They're not on Twitter to go somewhere else. They're not on Twitter to go read somewhere else. They're not on Twitter to go buy something. They're on there to shoot the shit, banter, argue, or waste time. And that's what they're doing. So yeah, it does not. It does not.
It's increasingly also a young person's game, Twitter.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen that evolve right in front of our eyes, and they're on there just to shoot the shit, dunk on each other, and fuck around. And the thing about it is, you can say, all right, well, Z in the chat, this guy always has, he says, I can think of one automaker that cares a lot about Twitter.
Oh, he's got you on that one.
He's got me there.
He's got
Z
you there.
has got me there. Now the counter argument might be, all right, well, wrestling's different. And as Tony Khan said at that press conference, he said that the world of wrestling congregates on Twitter.
But that's because he congregates on Twitter.
And I get right, because I think, again, do I think wrestling more so than maybe some other endeavors attracts a higher percentage of their fans to Twitter? Maybe. That might be true. But I still think he's overinflating. You're
in the silo, dude. That's why.
That's right. You're inside the bubble. So to you, it feels like everyone is there. Listen. So if your argument is that wrestling is different and it's more advantageous for wrestling companies or wrestlers themselves or whoever, wrestling websites, to have a big Twitter presence, that if you think it's vital in this one specific space of pro wrestling, when's the last non-robot tweet that we sent out, Rich? 2.5 years ago?
Probably.
Years
I mean,
ago,
I will send out pseudo non-robot tweets, but it's essentially just saying, here's the article, click it.
Right.
There's not been one opinion. There's not been one opinion tweeted out since about 3 years ago. About 3 years ago.
3 years ago. When's the last time we chased engagement? Might be the
3
better
years
way
ago.
to put it.
3 years ago.
Right. Okay. I would invite anyone listening to go on that little site that tracks Patreon subscriptions and look at our graph. That's all. If you think Twitter is necessary in wrestling for growth, go put us in their little search box on that site. That's all. And the graph is not going down. The graph is not going down. Okay? And you'll have to take our word on the other metrics that you can't see, that we're not going to share. You'll have to take our word on those. But it would stand to reason. If our subscriptions are going up, that everything else is doing pretty okay too. You don't need Twitter. And I think when you're in the Twitter bubble, it feels like it's the entire world.
Of course.
And I think, and
by design, by design.
Yeah. And I think Tony gets wrapped up in that. I think he gets wrapped up in that. And he then thinks that whatever he's seeing on Twitter is a reality and not just a reflection of everything of all, but literally the world, that it is the entire wrestling world. And it's not the truth. The fact of the matter is, anybody who follows Tony Khan on Twitter for wrestling, because he's got NFL and soccer followers too, and friends, but people who follow Tony Khan because they know him as the wrestling promoter, the fact of the matter is, they have their mind made up on AEW. They're on one side or the other of this culture war already. So his tweets aren't going to sway people. There isn't some Roman Reigns avatar who saw that Jinder Mahal tweet and said, you know what? Tony's got a point.
Right.
I'm watching Collision this week.
I'm gonna watch Collision. I'm watching Rampage this week. That Tony's speaking some truth. I'm gonna go watch Rampage. Yeah, that's not happening.
Yeah. So, I mean, I feel like, and then it blows up and becomes like what it was for 2 days this week. Now, I will say this. When Tony becomes poster Tony, not every time, but a lot of times, Rich, there is a method to his madness.
I agree.
He's either trying to drum up interest for a show, and a good example of that was Kenny Omega Vikingo, when he promoted that as a dream match. And then he spent time arguing with people about it when they came at him for it. That did nothing but help the rating. That did nothing but help promote the match. Okay? And there's other instances when he becomes poster Tony. When he's confident about something, when he has something up his sleeve.
Ding. That when you talked about it on your Thursday Dynamite review, I was screaming saying he's got something, because you get when Tony's annoyed or upset or whatever in the times that we've seen him publicly or that he's been on, running this company, or times that we've talked to him, he's DM Tony when he's upset. I'll tell you that. He is not poster Tony. He's posting in the DMs when he's upset or annoyed or angered about something. But when he's happy, when something's going good, or he's got an ace up his sleeve, or he's got a big announcement, or he's got something going on, that's when he becomes poster Tony. So that's the entire, as I was kind of reading through and seeing these posts and seeing what was going on, that's when I said, this guy's got something. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just that TNT or the Turner thing that was propping up AEW, talking about the 4 million viewers every week or whatever that may be, or he signed money, or he did this, or he did. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but that's the first thing that came to my mind, is that when poster Tony gets out there, that usually means that he's got something, or he's got an ace up his sleeve, or he's confident about something, or he's feeling himself. That's when he's doing that. He's a little more puffy chested about something. So I don't know what that would be, this particular week, or what's going on, but that's the first thing that came to my mind, is that he's feeling confident. He's got something. Something's going well. Something's going right. Something's happening. That's why you're getting poster Tony.
Often that's the case. So this week, Dynamite was flat in total viewers. It was up 12% in the demo. Was that because of poster Tony? Was that because there was more attention on Hook getting a title shot, or whatever the fuck? More attention on AEW, more people seeing his tweets promoting Dynamite because they had his feed bookmarked because they wanted to see, his next fucking dunk or whatever. I don't know. But I do know that there are times where there's absolutely a method to this madness, and that's why he becomes poster Tony. Now, listen, I'm not saying there's not times where he's just not gotten to, or he feels like, or he gets frustrated because he's constantly getting banged on and he wants to fucking clap back, because he's human like everybody else. And he's not just human. He came from being a poster. He's a literal poster. And he came from, that time where we were all, Rich, it full well. You and I came from the same time period, the same boards, where it was just, it It was just a different version of Twitter where everybody's just being fucking nasty to each other.
Right. You crack your knuckles every time you'd log in and crack your knuckles and see who was calling you an asshole today, or who was calling into question your ability to watch wrestling or talk about wrestling or put words together, whatever. Yeah, you cracked your knuckles and you went after it every day.
You're retweeting threads on a message board, waiting for someone to reply to you. You know, you're slapping that F5, waiting for someone to post the response. It was just slower Twitter.
Right.
You know,
you had to stew on it a little bit. You had to stew on it a little bit longer, which was good. I appreciate that.
And the only difference was it was all like-minded people on the board who, for the most part, didn't have any ill will towards each other. You might have had your board enemies. Everyone had their board enemies, you know. But I'm sure we had arguments and debates on those old boards. You and I. In fact, I know we did.
I'm sure we did.
I can think of a few, you know. And it's like it wasn't like I wasn't like, oh, I want FedEx, whatever your name, FedEx 337 or whatever it was.
Close enough.
I don't want him to die. You know, I think he's wrong about fucking quality starts. That's all.
Right. I think he's overrating on base percentage.
Right. Exactly. Shit like that, you know. But the shit on Twitter gets nasty, you know, and it's nastier than ever because it's complete strangers and you're not on a message board with 1,000 members who are all like-minded. When you tweet something, it goes to the fucking everyone on the fucking site can see it. You know, and it goes into corners of the fucking fandom that don't jive with what you're saying or don't understand your perspective. But that's drifting off the point. The point is Tony gets wrapped up in this. And I think he thinks Twitter encompasses all. And it doesn't. You know, but I don't know. I don't know if this week's was intentional or not. You know, it may have not started that way and then became that way. I'll tell you what, though. Tony Khan got Jinder Mahal over more than WWE ever has.
This is the most I've heard about Jinder Mahal in a given week, and I have a great way to end this segment that'll wrap everything up. When you are done, let me know. I have a great way, and then we will just immediately go into New Japan Pro Wrestling news and notes. Or actually, we'll do contract season. But let me know when you're done, and I will give you the perfect way to cap off the first hour and a half of this show. All right.
And I mean, this tribalism, I'll let you know. So this tribalism is so hot and heavy now that there are people so like drilled into their side that they will defend Jinder Mahal like he's good.
Right.
When he's terrible. He's one of the worst major league wrestlers.
He's terrible. He was a disaster as a world champion, and he never wrestles because he's always hurt.
That's how bad it is. They'll defend him and claim that he's not terrible. And Tony didn't even say he was terrible. I'll say he's terrible because he is terrible. Jinder Mahal is one of the worst. He's one of the worst wrestlers that company has put on their main roster in a decade. Is there any doubt? I mean, he's bottom 10. He's really bad.
Oh, he's fucking horrific. Yeah, he's terrible.
And he's never been good. Before he ever got, the guy stinks. These people will defend anything. I mean, because it's their side. You got to defend your side, at all costs. But anyway, wrap it up, Rich.
All right. This wraps up the first hour and a half of the show perfectly in a nice, tidy package. At 411 Mania aggregates the following. Jonathan Coachman weighs in on Hook and Jinder Mahal debate. Quote, wrestling is not about wins.
Ah, yes.
Thanks, Coach. All right. It's contract season. Let's talk about some people moving. Different contract stuff. We got Kamille. We got Clark Connors, Alex Coughlin, Gabe Kidd, ELP. We got Matt Riddle. Major changes at the executive level of AEW and WWE. Where do you want to start? You want to start with Kamille? Let's talk about NWA superstar Kamille. How about that?
Man, you gave away all my contract season notes. Usually I go through them and you don't know what's coming, but the listener doesn't know what's coming.
Maybe you have some extra ones. Maybe you got some extra ones out there.
I'm a little, I feel like you're stepping all over my bit here. I'm a little hurt, Rich. I mean, you gave away all the names already. I mean, it's not how we do it. Like normally I will say it's time for contract and I'll throw the names at you and you don't know who's coming.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Yeah. All right. I guess we'll do it this way.
You can still do it. I'll stand back. You
just
restart it.
You
restart it.
You can't put that toothpaste back in the tube. I mean, I'm going to say Kamille, rumored to be going to WWE, Rich. Your reaction, but you already told everybody.
I didn't give you my reaction, though.
All right, well, what's your reaction?
Yeah. It's a good spot for her. Good landing spot. I think it's going to be funny that who's talked about Kamille more in the last 4 years than us.
No one.
Nobody. And it kind of feels like
that's not true.
There's those dopey NWA podcasts.
NWA podcast.
Right, there's a dopey NWA podcast.
Probably by Gary Horn, that one.
Probably
them. They might have us beat.
They might have us beat. The only other good podcast talking about Kamille over the last 4 years is us. And I felt a little bit of a little sense of pride. I was like, oh, all right, she's graduating. And now a lot of people are going to start learning about her and start realizing, I don't know if she's going to work in WWE. I don't know if she's going to be great in NXT. That's where she's rumored to be, expected to end up somewhere in WWE or NXT or whatever. But I think it's going to be very interesting to see what people think about her, because I think the look she's got, the in-ring she has, we've talked about the promos. The promos are rough. That's always going to be rough. Her voice doesn't match what she looks like. She doesn't have a voice that gives it's not an authenticity thing. It's just she looks like $1 million, but then when she talks, it just doesn't quite. I don't know. It's a strange voice. It doesn't match her what she is, and it doesn't match her aura as well, which kind of sucks about it. But all things aside, like, she's great. I think she's really, really good, and I think she has been the best part of NWA over the last 4 years or whatever. And I'm very curious what the reaction is going to be once people finally get to see her and see her wrestle in WWE and do certain things that I think a lot of people are going to be doing a lot of catch up, over the last couple of years of what she was. I mean, no one's going to go back and watch the NWA stuff, but there's going to be a lot of, whoa, where did this person come? Whoa, who had any idea about Kamille? And it's going to be like, man, it's like, I feel weird. We were the ones that were like banging that drum over and over again. We were getting mad. Remember when we get mad at the PWI would have the women 500, and we're like, kayfabe wise, Kamille should be number one. She always wins. She has good matches. She's the champion of the NWA. Like, she wouldn't rank because she's the NWA. Like, I'm going to be very, very curious how people react to her getting there and what people do, because she's still only 31 years old, which I think is lost on some people. That's not super, super young, but she's not 35, 36, 37. She still has a lot of good years in her. So I'm curious how it's going to work. I think she's a good fit for that company. I think she's a good fit for WWE and NXT, and yeah, we'll see. But it kind of felt, I just felt this sense of like, wow, is there anybody that's talked about her more than we have over the last 4 years, except for the Dopey NWA podcast?
Yeah, she sounds like Chris Tucker. I don't know how that's possible, but that's what she sounds like when she talks.
She sounds like a college softball coach because she's a softball player, but she sounds like a D3 college softball assistant coach, like the cool coach.
Listen, you will never be able to watch Rush Hour again because she sounds like Chris Tucker.
That's tough. I'm not gonna listen. No, I don't want to do that. I'm not gonna do that.
What? You're a big Rush Hour guy?
No, I'm just not gonna make that connection because I'm never gonna not hear it in her.
Yeah, see, it's Friday, starring Ice Cube and Kamille. That's what she sounds like. Chris Tucker. I mean, I don't listen.
I don't want to ruin Friday. You can ruin Rush Hour for me. I don't really want to ruin Friday though, so I think I'm going to try.
How about when you see Kamille cut a promo, you picture Chris Tucker? Do it in reverse.
Okay, I could do that.
Yeah. Well, that's why her voice doesn't fit her body, because you don't expect that person to sound like Chris Tucker.
Tucker.
I mean, that's what she sounds like. Remember, she didn't talk for like 3 years.
Yes.
That her gimmick was she didn't speak. She was just Nick Aldis is heavy. Remember? And then she finally cut a promo, and I was like, "Oh my god, that's like Chris." She sounds like Chris Tucker. That's the first thing that popped in my head. But she's got a great look. She can absolutely work to that company's standards, especially NXT, where they all fucking trip over their own feet.
Except Jade.
Yeah.
Except Jade.
Well, we don't know.
Yeah.
How would you know, Rich? She's never on TV. They have her hidden in mothballs in the PC because she's such a no doubt, lock it in star. Man, they got sold a bill of goods, huh?
They did. They did. She's got to be in the Rumble. She has to be in the Rumble. If she's not in the Rumble, what are we even doing here?
It's going to happen eventually. Okay, they're going to get her on TV, and she's going to do fine. The thing about WWE now is they are in that great position where anything they do is over with their fans. You don't have to be good. They're defending Jinder Mahal, Rich. Jade, as soon as she's on TV, is going to get over. It doesn't matter if her matches are bad.
They're doing they're doing Lexis King standing right now.
Yeah.
I mean, we've entered the bottom of the barrel.
It genuinely, the company is so over to their fans right now that anything the company does, their fans are like, all right, yeah, this person cooks. That it's just, it doesn't matter. And I'm not even knocking them for that. That's an amazing
That's good for them. That's the best way to be. People would used to say that about AEW. Oh, anything AEW does, the fans just eat up. Good. That's a good company.
Yeah, and we used to be like, that's great. Like,
right.
why is that bad?
That's a
awesome,
very good thing. Any company would want that.
Yeah, and WWE has that right now. It doesn't matter what they throw out there. The fans are so into the promotion that they want to be into everything. And, I just think that they maybe weren't prepared for how limited Jade was, and they're probably working hard to get her ready. I mean, we know this because Triple H said it. He admitted it publicly. Oh, we want her to be prepared for all possible scenarios and situations, and we got to get her ready for that, and he admitted it. So, Kamille, I think she's a little better than Jade in the ring.
Oh yeah.
And is a little more, look, neither one of them are Judy Martin, right? And never will be. But, and Kamille has her, like, Jade's a much better talker than Kamille. Jade, expresses herself and she has more charisma than
she's
Kamille.
got more charisma. I don't know if she's a better talker.
Confidence. It's confidence.
Yes.
That's what she has. She has way more, the confidence just glows off of Jade's body. She thinks that she's great and it comes across. She's not faking it. So they're very similar, but they have different weaknesses too. They both have obvious strengths, obvious weaknesses, but I think that their upsides are similar. So if Kamille does end up there, I think it's a good spot for her. Let's move on. So we'll talk about this group of New Japan guys. Clark Connors, Alex Coughlin, Gabe Kidd, and ELP, El Phantasmo, and I might even be missing one or two. There are reports that all of them, their contracts are up at the end of January. Okay. Here's the thing about that. Okay. There's something similar about all these guys. They're foreigners. All four of them are Gaijins. Okay. You got Gabe Kidd's from the UK. ELP's a Canadian. And the other two guys, I think, are both American, right? Connors and Coughlin.
Yeah.
But they're all foreigners. They're all Gaijins. And here's the thing. Most of the roster's contracts are up at the end of January in New Japan. Not everybody, but a good chunk of the roster, their deals come up at the end of every January. Everybody knows this. It's been that way for years. It's changed a little after 2016 with the Exodus, with AJ Styles and Nakamura and the Anderson and Gallows and where they almost lost. Oh my God, you got to go all the way to Tama Tonga's been threatening to leave since 2016. That just occurred to me.
I know, and I've been packing his bags since that long too.
Yeah.
Go, yes, Bullet Club and WWE, please go.
Remember, it was him and Fale at the time who were rumored to be going too.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But so it's like, ever since 2016, New Japan has been signing people because it used to be just 1 year deals over and over and over. 1 year deal. They got smartened up to that. They couldn't do it anymore because WWE was swooping in. So I'm not saying everybody's deal is up at the end of January, but a gigantic portion of the roster, their deals are going to come up every single January. So what's happening here is what these guys are doing. And this is why it matters that they're Gaijins. And we saw the Tongans do this last year. The same time, right around this time, the rumor was Tama Tonga, Tangaloa, and Hikuleo were rumored to be on their way to possibly be on their way to WWE. And they floated it out there that their contracts were up. Well, the other Gaijins paid attention to that. And now they're playing the same game. I'm not saying these guys' contracts aren't coming up at the end of January. I'm sure that they are. But the reason that these guys are floating that and leaking it to the media is to get their names out there, to see if it can gather, a little, downward momentum and a little bit of steam. Maybe fans start talking about them. Maybe WWE or AEW or TNA or somebody notices and says, oh, Clark Connors is a free agent. All right, he's pretty, let's give him a call. Let's see let's see where his head's at. That is why these stories are all coming out one after another of these New Japan Gaijins being free agents at the end of January. They're planting that. And that's smart business by them. They're probably not going to leave. Okay? They're going to sign another 1-year deal, and we're going to play this game again next January. That's what this is. Okay? This isn't any kind of even big news, right? Look, El Phantasmo did an interview with Fightful a couple of weeks ago. And even on questions that had nothing to do with it, he was shoehorning in answers about his contract.
Right. Just so you know, just to remind you, my contract is.
And, it's like, that's what these guys are doing. They're just letting it be known. And then, maybe it picks up steam on social media. And then maybe
Kenny
one of
Omega
these
did
promoters.
that. Famously, remember the time when Kenny Omega did that?
He did it with Dave Meltzer.
He did it with Dave Meltzer. He went out with Dave Meltzer, and the whole tenor of the conversation at the beginning was, all right, Kenny being like, I don't know what my future's going to hold. I'm looking at every option or whatever. And then Dave said, well, what are some matches you're looking forward to this year? And he basically just listed off New Japan guys. I'd love it. I really love to face this guy. This guy was all New Japan guys. And then 2 days later, he re-signed with New Japan Pro Wrestling for another year.
No, not even that. He wasn't. It's
right.
Like,
that's right. It wasn't not even due. I don't even remember if he was due or whatever.
He was just working. He was just working because he wanted people to think his situation was a little different. He was working an angle.
Because he left the Royal Rumble. He had lost at Wrestle Kingdom, and then he was gone until after the Royal Rumble, right? And people thought, maybe he's going to be in the Royal Rumble, and then
yeah, and he was and then when he named all those opponents he wanted to work with, it was every program he ended up working that year in New Japan,
right? 2017 or whatever, yeah.
Right, it was all the people he ended up working with in New Japan. So his was a little different. What these guys are doing is they're just putting it out there. Hey, my contract's coming up, and they're all booked for the New Beginning tour. Okay. Now that doesn't necessarily mean anything because the class of 2016 we just talked about, those guys finished up their dates too, so let's say Tony Khan would give one of these guys a call. Let's say he gives Gabe Kidd a call and Gabe Kidd's still going to work that New Beginning tour. He's already booked for those shows. So it's also not uncommon for these guys to work some dates without a contract for a couple of months until that stuff gets hammered out. That happens every single year as well. But here's the thing. Let's say I'm Tony Khan. And, Clark Connors has worked the Forbidden Door, I think, before. And so has Coughlin, I think. I think Coughlin worked the Forbidden Door pre-show once. If I liked these guys, if I thought the War Dogs had potential and I was Tony Khan, I would not sign them. And I'm going to tell you why, Rich Craig. Okay? Why rattle that cage and upset a close partner of yours who you have this Forbidden Door show every year. You have this Wrestle Dream show now every year. You have a good partner. You share talent. Okay. Why rattle that cage and start stealing their young guys out from underneath them just because you can?
Right. Don't do that. Steal a Will Ospreay because he wants to get to that next level in his career and make more money and wants to give it a shot or whatever. That's the kind of guy you rattle the cage for, even if it's rattling the cage.
And the thing with Will Ospreay is New Japan understands because they no longer can afford him.
Right. They said, go out there, do it. He said, and AEW said that on their blessing, he said, go.
That's
get
right.
That. If they're going to pay you that, go take that money.
Yeah, because, New Japan knows they can't pay Will Ospreay anymore. And the other thing is, New Japan is thrilled that he signed with AEW because they still get to use him. So they're not even upset about that. It's like, all right, we can't afford the guy. He has outgrown us. He's been here for 7 or 8 years. They're thrilled that he went to Tony and not WWE.
Yeah.
Because now they can still bring him in and use him as a part-timer. So that's a different situation. If Tony goes out there and starts signing people like Clark Connors and Alex Coughlin, New Japan might be like, all right, well, what the fuck? Like, and here's the other thing. If you're Tony Khan, there's no reason to do that anyway. Why would you, even if you like Clark Connors and you think he has potential?
They don't need Clark Connors.
What spot do you have for him right now? He's going to sit there and rot. The prudent thing to do is let him stay in New Japan. Let them get him over. Let New Japan do the dirty work. Let New Japan build him up for the next 3, 4, 5 years. Because if you're Tony Khan, you can sign Clark Connors whenever the fuck you want. You don't have to take him now. Wait till he's a star. Wait till New Japan makes him a star for you. Then you go and get him. Like Will Ospreay. When Clark Connors makes himself too big, if Clark Connors one day is too big of a star for New Japan to afford, and he can come in and make a difference right away because he's already over, that's when you sign him. You don't sign him now because you got to do the work to get him over because he's not over. He doesn't mean anything. So, from that standpoint, if I'm Tony Khan, I don't even bother. Now, if WWE likes these guys, of course, they'll sign them for $60,000 and stuff them in the fucking in the closet with Jade, down in fucking Orlando is what they'll do. Now, Jade got real money; she didn't get $60,000. But guys at this level who aren't over, these guys are going to get developmental contracts, and they're gonna, it's going to take them 6 months to get to TV. Then they're going to be in NXT for 5 years, and they have to decide: is that a good career move for me, or is sticking with New Japan for similar money and a better career, and that's up to them. That's up to the individual talent. So my gut is the vast majority of these guys, if not all of them, spend another year in New Japan, and then we're going to play this game all over again. Do you have any other thoughts on these guys?
None, yeah. And the reaction is strange too, because it's like it goes on all different sides of people freaking out and doing New Japan doomsdaying about this. Oh my God, how are they going to lose more guys? And it's like, come on, New Japan fans got to be better about this, because they either just don't. It's a very strange thing, but yeah, we do this every year, and we're going to do it every year. And I guess I've given up on people getting smarter about it. And hey, credit to those guys. They're getting their names out there. They're getting their contract out there. And hey, you never know. Somebody might.
It doesn't hurt them at all.
Doesn't hurt them at all. Maybe someone gives them an offer that they can't refuse. Maybe WWE goes, oh, you know what? Let's look at this Gabe Kidd guy, and gives him a huge offer, and he takes it. You know what? Good for him if that's the case. But yeah, makes all the sense in the world to do it. All the sense in the world to try it. But yeah, people just need to realize what the score is and what.
Or maybe Alex Coughlin doesn't like 14-hour plane trips, and if TNA gives him the same money, he would take it. Right. I don't know. Mm-hmm. I don't know what's in these guys' heads. So anyway, that's the group of New Japan free agents, which, whether it ever gets reported or not, it's the case every single year. They obviously booked Riddle. Now, Riddle also worked MLW. He won his match at the pay-per-view. So, look, I don't know if Riddle is signed to any of these places, whether it's New Japan or MLW, but he's certainly working both of them now. I think we've talked about Riddle before. To me, the guy's not worth the trouble. He's a ticking time bomb. All the talent in the world, obviously. The guy's great. He's a great pro wrestler, okay? But he's a ticking time bomb. He's got tons of baggage. As a promoter, I wouldn't trust him. And I can tell you right now, Tony Khan must feel the same way, because if Tony Khan wanted Matt Riddle, he'd be working there right now. And he's not. Matt Riddle disappeared for a while and popped up in New Japan and MLW. So if AEW was going to be on the table, he would have been there already. He never got the call. That's my stance on it. What do you think?
Yeah, it never looks like they even kicked the tires on it too. It was never even rumored. It was never even put out there. There was never any like.
The guy's bad news. He's bad news.
And I agree. And I'm 100% the same way. I think if places like MLW or Impact or New Japan Pro Wrestling want to book the guy, from my standpoint, it's like, all right, well, I'll watch him wrestle, because why not? He's still a very good wrestler. But if I was running a company, hell no. It's just not worth it. Too much baggage, too much backstory, too many different things. Like Japan, you have the aspect of their policy on drugs in that country or whatnot. Like I don't know, man. That just seems like a lot can possibly go wrong with this guy. And yeah, I'm fine watching him on MLW and Impact and all these sort of things. But if I was any of these companies, I would not sign him to any sort of long-term deal. If you want to come in for a couple dates, sure. But no, he's not a guy that I invest in or push or give a title to or any of that sort of stuff.
Personally, I wouldn't book the guy at all. I would be hands off. He's not that big of a star where he's gonna, fill up a 5,000 seat building.
Yeah, I don't think he's a draw. I don't think he's a draw at all. I don't know that if you put Matt Riddle on a marquee that it's going to make people buy tickets or go see it. Really, I mean,
I don't even think it's worth it to hold your nose and sign him. I really don't think it is.
No,
because he and then the potential PR night. He's got the accusations first of all. Okay, then he had the weirdness on Twitter with the airport thing. He hangs out with some people. Look, the whole
there's a lot
energy around him is
there's a lot of smoke. Too much smoke for me.
I mean, you're really gambling on that. Even if you can hold your nose and set aside all the other stuff that we already know, in a lot of ways, it's a ticking time bomb. To me, he's not worth it. But, and again, I don't know whether either of these companies have him signed or if he's just doing dates. I don't have a clue. So, Queen Aminata has officially signed with AEW. They did not give her the graphic, but Fightful did some digging. Look, this is why I suspect that Brian Keith is also signed. Guy's at TV every week. I think they're just waiting for these people to win matches, and then they're going to give them the graphic.
Right, Brian Keith's going to get that big moment. He's going to get a big win, and then they'll stop everything, and Tony Schiavone will go in the ring and say, Brian Keith, the outlaw, and then points at the screen, and it'll say Brian Keith's all elite or whatever, and he'll shake Tony's hand, and yeah. So I agree.
Dragon Gate. Here's a curveball for you.
Uh-oh.
Dragon Gate is sending Mochizuki Jr. on excursion to British Kingdom Pro Wrestling.
I saw that.
First of all, get Ian Hamilton on the line. I don't know what British Kingdom Pro Wrestling
I've never
means.
heard of British Kingdom Pro Wrestling, yes.
But yeah, so he'll be spending, I think, 3 months, and he's already booked for WXW for 16 Carat, I believe. So
they are the former, do you remember 4FW?
Yes.
That's them.
Okay.
This is their new name.
So he'll be getting bookings all over Europe, I would assume. You think Rev would touch him with the New Japan relationship?
Yeah,
I don't think New Japan would give a shit.
I don't think they would either. Yeah, I don't know. You'd have to ask somebody that's more in tune with Dragon Gate. I don't know that like New Japan would give a shit about Dragon Gate. I'm not sure Dragon Gate gives that much. I feel like those two are such. They're not competing in the same way that maybe they were competing even 10 years ago or whatever. I don't know that either party cares, to be honest. Especially if it's Rev Pro. I don't think anybody would care.
I think New Japan might say. I think they might say like, all right, well, Mochizuki Jr. is not beating Tomohiro Ishii. We're not doing that.
Right. He can't beat our guys, but we don't care if he's on the undercard and Ishii's in the main event or whatever. Right? I think
Callum
that would be.
Newman is there. Yeah, right.
Right.
It's so, yeah, so it's a good spot for him. I'm always in favor of these excursions. I think it's very beneficial for these guys to go work other places, stretch their legs, do some different things. So good for him. AJ Francis.
Oh, baby. FKA
Old
top
Frank.
dollar.
Yeah. He's coming to TNA.
Yes, he is.
At least for one show. I don't know how many more shows. I did see old Frank saying on social media that, and I'm paraphrasing, GCW puts me on a poster, their social media blows up. TNA puts me on a poster, their social media blows up. Do you see a pattern, people? So listen, he's laying down the hammer.
There it
Maybe
is.
Tony just can't get the deal done. Maybe Triple H has been begging to get the old top dollar back, but he's playing hardball because he's a needle mover, Rich.
Yes, he is. Yes.
A needle mover.
He a little bit of a preview to our preview. He's going to debut We Outside, him and DJ Woo Kid at TNA's Hard to Kill pay-per-view. We Outside with the S replaced by a $sign will be debuted there. But he did go on Busted Open Radio. Hold on. Okay. Yeah.
Is that a song or a match? What is that?
That is a song. It is a music video.
Oh, so hold on a second. They're not wrestling. He's not wrestling a match with TNA?
I don't think so. But as I was going to say, he was on Busted Open, our favorite SiriusXM wrestling related show. He was on Busted Open and said, quote, "There's this guy named Bully Ray that I definitely know I could make some money with. Tommy Dreamer, for sure. We've got Moose, for sure. Chris Bay, for sure. Sabin, for sure. Some of the best in the business are in that company."
Trying to think of a match on this planet I'd want to see less than AJ Francis versus Tommy Dreamer.
Top dollar versus Tommy Dreamer. Honestly, Bully Ray, top dollar that'd be okay. Because
I gotta give that the edge.
Because Francis would come out, he would do his rap thing, and Bully Ray would just sit there, annoyed, and then grab the microphone and be like, "Are you fucking done or what?" You know what I mean? Like, so that would at least be funny. Like, he'd be annoyed and cut a dumb promo about it or whatever. Tommy Dreamer and AJ Francis, man, whoo boy, no, thank you, not interested.
All right, so at least he's talking about potentially wrestling.
He said he will also do intergender with Trudy Fatu or Jordan Grace too. So says, quote,
pitching intergender,
"I feel like we could do some good work there," he said about Grace. "So there's a lot of people in TNA that I'm very much looking forward to working with because there's so much talent on the roster. People don't understand. The casual wrestling fan that only watches WWE and doesn't watch TNA doesn't understand how deep and talented that roster is. The sky is the limit in TNA, and I'm very much looking forward to it." That is from Busted Open Radio, as well as Wrestling Inc., who aggregated that. So Good job,
Well,
Wrestling
listen,
Inc.
Well, listen. If he doesn't have a contract, he clearly wants one. So that, you can't put a company over stronger than that if you're going to go on a radio show. And he basically put over the whole fucking roster and said he wants to work with him. So, we'll see. I will fucking die if he's their big signing that they've been touting. I will fucking die if they've been touting this big time money free agent that for the past 3 months and it ends up being fucking top dollar. Could you imagine, Rich Grage, after all that hype? That would be unbelievable. So we move on from AJ Francis to TNA. Mickie James, Rich Grage.
I saw this.
Has signed with OVW.
OVW. OVW.
An office position. She's the executive producer of content or creative or something like that.
Coming for Selena De Laurentia's spot as executive producer of a wrestling show.
Some other title, too. So, bottom line is Mickie James is headed to OVW in an office capacity. And I'm sure that she'll get in the ring at some point and people will chant hardcore country for all 11 minutes of the match. This was out of left field. So now I don't know if people realize OVW, they've got some pretty decent television exposure in the United States, but nobody, and I mean nobody,
never
watches,
a word.
discusses,
Even us who make an admission to talk about MLW and NWA. I haven't watched a second of Ohio Valley Wrestling since, I don't know, 2004, maybe. You know what I mean? Once Randy Orton left, I think that was about it. When Leviathan was gone, I was pretty much done. I mean, that's what you got to. It's all the way back to that.
I have watched it, and it is fucking brutal. Much like Women of Wrestling, I couldn't watch it ever again. It was that bad. And I'm someone who just yesterday binged watched a month worth of Billy Corgan's NWA, and I cannot watch OVW. So that just tells you how bad it is. So it's an atrocious promotion. It's terrible. Everything about it's bad. But who knows? Maybe Mickie James will go in there and she'll be fucking, George Scott with the pencil and turn things around. But I'm not banking on it.
Yeah, I wouldn't. It's interesting that WWE didn't come calling with all this there and her always seeming like she had the open door to go back there. It does seem like that open door may have closed. So.
Yeah, but they sent her clothes and they sent her belongings in a garbage bag. Don't you think she would hold a grudge and not want to go back, Rich?
I believe she came back after that.
Oh, okay.
a couple times. So yeah. While I agree that I would hold a grudge if somebody did that to me, she did not, and her husband works there now too. So
she not only went back, she went back as Impact champion and got thrown out of the Royal Rumble in 8 minutes.
Yes.
So
do you remember that month? When they announced that Impact Wrestling's Mickie James is going to be a part of the Royal Rumble, and people lost their fucking minds saying, oh my God, we're going to see the forbidden door of wrestling is now open. WWE and TNA are going to work together. We're going to get Moose versus Roman Reigns. We're going to get this versus that. And we came on the show and we're like, people. They called Mickie James and said, hey, Mickie, we need you for the Rumble. And she said, ooh, just so you know, I'm in Impact right now and I'm their champion. They went, shit. All right. We'll get someone to call Scott and see it. And then Scott D'Amore said, yeah, sure. Can you just say that she's from Impact? And they said, sure. And then she came out. They said, she's from Impact. And they tossed her out in 8 minutes and never spoke of the relationship ever again. And Roman Reigns and Moose never happened, believe it or not. So Josh Alexander versus Seth freaking Rollins never happened. No, they just threw Mickie out and that was the end of it. So
just like we said would happen.
Yep.
And then those same people buried the AEW Impact relationship.
Yes.
Which was a real relationship.
Yes.
Where wrestlers did go back and forth and wrestle in each company.
Right. But I don't know. Yeah, that was a wild time to be around. So real quickly before we get out of contract season, do you have any other surprises for me, or is that the end of the surprises of contract season?
No, you know what? I got you, pal, because you tried to give away all of my hot scoops.
You got a few out there. Yeah, a few that I wasn't ready for.
That I aggregated, okay? And then I threw you some curveballs that you didn't know were coming. So I'm pleased with that. Now I know you have a few, so go ahead.
So the things I want to talk about real quickly were executive level changes for WWE and AEW. We did not talk about this a couple of weeks ago, but obviously Kevin Dunn, who had been with WWE since 1982, 83, 84, somewhere in that range. I mean, obviously a very, very, very long time with WWE. Left, obviously he was at an executive level position and leaves a very, very rich man. So don't feel bad for him in any way, shape, or form. A very, very rich man. But Kevin Dunn leaving obviously left an indelible and awful mark on pro wrestling history with pretty terrible production, I would say. I'm more than happy to say that he's been a net negative for wrestling. I know some people don't think that, but I think the way he shoots wrestling sucks. I think the way he directs wrestling is terrible. I think most production of wrestling is pretty terrible at this point, and it's gotten worse under his leadership, and now everybody kind of follows that because they're the market leader, and they've been doing it for a while, and they've been doing it for 30 years. Now, there was a time where I believe he was revolutionary, obviously in the 80s and the stuff that he was doing there, but time and time again over the last decade, 2 decades or whatever, I think he's been a net negative for the industry, and everybody kind of chases that production style now, and I think much to their detriment. I've seen it with AEW, of course, with Mike Mansory, who comes in, under the Kevin Dunn learning tree, and a lot of Kevin Dunn's approaches to shooting and directing and producing wrestling, which, most wrestling fans might not know, but those of us that have backgrounds in video and production and that sort of stuff can kind of see these things, have, I think, been net negatives for AEW in terms of the way the sets look, in terms of the way the things are shot, in terms of the way backstage segments are shot and produced, and how often backstage stuff, is that all Kevin Dunn? I don't know, but it's certainly, he has sort of dictated the way that wrestling looks and feels and on television for decades and decades and decades, and I think he's been a tremendous net negative to wrestling production. So, also probably not a very good guy either. So glad to see him depart. So he is done. He leaves WWE. In his place, Joe, Lee Fitting.
Before you talk about
yes.
Lee Fitting, can I say something about Kevin Dunn?
Sure.
I think we all kind of figured this would happen once there was enough distance between Vince not really being around anymore and TKO taking over, because Dunn really was a relic from the previous era. And, it's Triple H is going to want to get his own vision out there, and not just the creative, but in every facet of the company. So I was not surprised. Can you say you were surprised?
Oh, God, no. I felt like I was surprised he lasted as long as he did. And there must have been, it was probably just they wanted to hire the right guy to fill in, or the guy that they felt was ready to go, or he felt that they were ready to go, or he was able to get things in place for him to leave. I still believe that he probably wanted, to leave on with things tightened up or put together well enough that he could leave without, it coming complete, falling apart or whatever, just leaving in the middle of the night and saying, fuck this, I'm out of here. But I thought the second that Vince was quote unquote out of power, the second that this merger happened, I felt like Kevin Dunn was gone for sure. So
do you think they managed him out and made his life hell? Or do you think he just looked around and said,
I bet he just looked around. I bet he just looked around. I also think that there was,
wasn't there didn't he chatter a bit that he didn't like some of the things he was asked to do?
I think so. Yeah. No, I think you're right. And I know that him and Paul Levesque have never really seen eye to eye. And that goes back decades, that they have always kind of butted heads a little bit. Kevin Dunn, very much a Vince McMahon guy, 100% Vince McMahon's dude. He was hired under Vince Sr. And then was Vince Jr.'s, main production guy.
He rose up the ranks from
right.
From an hourly employee
right.
to where now he's a multimillionaire.
Yeah, multimillionaire. Very, very, very wealthy man. But no, him and Paul Levesque never saw eye to eye. So I bet it was a little bit of needling here and there, and then him just looking around and going, you know what, this is over. I'm done. So I'm out of here.
Yeah. So his replacement, go ahead.
Yeah, his replacement is Lee Fitting. And here's from Stamford, Connecticut, press release from WWE. WWE, part of TKO Group Holdings, today announced that media industry veteran Lee Fitting has joined the company this week as head of media and production. Fitting brings more than 2 decades of production experience to WWE from ESPN, where he oversaw production of tentpole properties, including Monday Night Football, College Game Day, the College Football Playoff, and many other properties within the Disney portfolio. So they get a guy outside of the wrestling industry, Lee Fitting, who was doing stuff with Monday Night Football, College Game Day, the College Football Playoffs. And those are good credentials. I mean, those are really, really good credentials. And it's another sports guy, another guy from the sports tree. And of course, Nick Khan, you see, you know that this is I don't have to be.
This says Nick Khan written all
I don't
over
have to. I don't know.
I mean, come on.
I don't know their direct connection, but Jesus Christ, this is a Nick Khan hire for sure.
Yeah, this is now being run like a legitimate company and not Vince McMahon's little sandbox. Is what it comes down to. And that's the Nick Khan effect. So you're going to get real people in there, real professionals from the real world doing some of these real jobs. And this is an example. I think this can be nothing but a potential positive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nothing but a potential positive to get a different, fresh perspective on how to present these shows and product, and as we said, Triple H, maybe some of his ideas for production and whatnot won't be met, with this brick wall. And look, even Dunn, I mean, when you work for one guy for 30 years and that guy is very receptive to your ideas and it's your ball game, whatever you think of Kevin Dunn's production, it's not easy to just work for someone else who has a different set of eyes and wants different ideas. And you're like, well, what the fuck? I've been doing this my way for 30 years and I've been told that I'm great at it. So I could see why Dunn wouldn't want to be around anymore. But as far as for the viewer, as far as for the fan, how this will affect you, the listener, I think it can only be positive.
Right.
I mean, WWE production, it's this weird thing where it got all of this praise, and yes, it looked professional and it never looked cheap or anything like that. But it was also one of the things that I hated most about the company all of these years. Their production was very off-putting to me, and we talked about it tons over the last 12 or 13 years. So anything new and different and a different approach, I am begging for someone to produce pro wrestling differently than it's been produced over the last 3 decades.
I've never wanted something more. So this is like, when I saw this news, I was so happy because I was like, thank God. Hopefully somebody comes in here. Hopefully this Lee Fitting guy comes in here with some different ideas, some different camera shots, some different production. God damn it, do something different. All of pro wrestling has looked the same for 20 years, 30 years. Everybody's got the same thing. Even AEW, who at a certain point did look different, now they've kind of succumbed to, all right, our entrance is just a big wall of videos, and here's people backstage looking shoulder to shoulder with each other to talk, and now they're looking at every part of it with the monitors looking, and the video boards, and the rope colors, and the colors palettes, and the camera shots, and the hard cams, and it's all the same shit over and over and over again. And the way that it progressed in the 80s, the reason that pro wrestling production got to where it got to in the 80s is because a lot of people were in charge of sports broadcasting. We're in charge of this. We're in charge of that. We're not from the wrestling business, so they came in with a whole bunch of new ideas. And that's why World Class looked different than Georgia, and that's why Georgia looked different than Continental. That's why Continental looked different than all these places look different. Mid-South looked different than all these other places. They all look different because it was all different. It was. Memphis looked nothing like, like Continental, like all these things were different. And that's, I think, what helped so much is that it was all these different people. And then little by little, it's all been kind of sanitized because WWE is the market leader. So we got to do what WWE does. And when Nitro started, Nitro was very different. Nitro did a lot of really, really cool and very different things. A lot of things that WWF did eventually kind of take over and say, this is not a bad idea. We're going to take this. ECW, when ECW started, had a lot of very different ideas of how to produce wrestling and whatnot. But once WWE won the war in 2001, it pretty much only became that. And now pretty much every other wrestling company since then has just produced television exactly like WWE and exactly how Kevin Dunn wanted to produce it. So I am very, very excited just to see something different and hope that it is different and changes, and that hopefully it raises the bar of all wrestling production. And hopefully I just want it to look different. I want to turn on a Raw and, for God's sakes, have it look different than it's looked for the last 30 years. And it just hasn't. God, you turn on a show from 2006 and you turn on a show from 2019 and you turn on a show from 2024, it's going to look pretty much exactly the same. And that sucks. And that's across the board in all wrestling. So I'm very happy and excited to see what happens here. Now, I don't know. Who knows what this guy's going to do? But I do think, like you said, it's probably a net positive for fans. AEW. They have a new chief operating officer, a new COO in AEW. Kosha Irby has been hired for the role. He is he was formerly the regional director of live events for WWE from 2011 to 2018. So his role will be COO, and he'll be in charge of a bunch of different stuff there in AEW. And he'd been working as the chief marketing officer for Clemson University's athletic department since February of 2023, and did a few other things. We worked with the Memphis Express AAF team. Remember the AAF. We talked about that a couple weeks ago. He was also the chief marketing officer for the Professional Bull Riders LLC from 2019 to 2023. But yeah,
well, that's a TKO. Isn't that a Endeavor company? Endeavor owns
yes. I thought we talked about that a couple weeks ago. That's an Endeavor related.
I think they own that. Unless there's a different bull riding circuit.
No, they do. That's them. Yeah.
Okay, that's the one.
Endeavor, IMG, whatever. Yeah, I think they started under IMG, but then Endeavor bought IMG or whatever. So yeah, that's who they are. So he's kind of been in that system, in the Endeavor system for a while there. Obviously, he was regional director of live events 2011 to 2018, did the professional bull riding stuff. So yeah, I don't know.
I thought he was just taking the job that the other guy's name is slipping.
Raphael Morphy is who you're thinking of, I believe.
Yeah, I thought he was just taking his job, but and maybe he is, but he just has a fancy title too, with COO.
Yeah, because Raphael was a vice president and chief marketing officer. So
he booked the buildings,
right?
In layman's terms, he booked the buildings, and his big thing was Grand Slam was his idea. The Arthur Ashe Stadium was his idea,
and he got hired by Barclays. He's gonna work with the Barclays Center in Brooklyn now.
Yeah, because he's a New York guy. He's an East Coast guy. But I thought that was brilliant because I had never even thought of possibly running Arthur Ashe, and that has turned out to be a massive success. I can't believe no one thought of that before that guy did. It's just tailor-made for pro wrestling, and I think other tennis stadiums should be looked at. Internationally, even, although I don't think the grounds of Wimbledon would welcome they'd look down their noses at the pro wrestling. Could you imagine?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
All the wrestlers must wear white when they compete on the hallowed grounds of the Wimbledon.
That would
lawns,
rock, actually.
Right?
That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, but yeah, that was a stroke of genius and a great idea. I thought this guy was just stepping into that role since he did a similar job when he was with WWE, but maybe he's got some other responsibilities. It seems like he's done other facets of marketing with some of these other jobs.
Looks like he's going to have a little bit more marketing aspect to him, and it does feel like that he's also being there to replace Dana Massey, who obviously she left as well. She was
turning two jobs into one.
Right. I think she was, let me get her exact title here. I think she was chief marketing and merchandising officer. So she also left. So it does feel like he's either overseeing both of those jobs or he's taking on both those jobs. So we'll see, I guess, what.
Yeah, sounds like. But look, I saw some people saying like, another WWE hire. This guy's like booking buildings. Like, I don't know. That doesn't. I don't want WWE people in creative. I don't want WWE people in production. The guy booking the buildings. Some lady working in payroll, I don't give a fuck where they work. That doesn't affect the on-screen product at all. So, I know he also had the tweet putting over Vince McMahon, but look, he probably knew the guy, I'm not defending Vince McMahon. Of course I'm not. We've got years of audio.
Yeah, we're not the place that does that.
Okay, so that's not. But as I've always said, if you have a personal relationship with the guy, I give you a pass. It's different when you know someone. That's all. I mean, so this guy fires out a tweet calling Vince. Now, the problem was he quote tweeted something that had the allegations in it.
Yeah. So just to let you know, the issue was the Wall Street Journal said, breaking, Vince McMahon is retiring as chief executive of WWE. The announcement comes after the company disclosed an investigation into his alleged sexual misconduct. And this guy said, you can call him whatever, just put legendary in front of it. Now that is not the tweet.
That's a little dicey.
That's not the tweet
dicey.
to do that. That's not the tweet.
That's not the tweet to do that. No. The one you do it to is maybe Vince's little retirement tweet. The one where, after all these years, it's time for me to go home. Remember that one?
Yes.
Like maybe that one.
That's the one.
Maybe that one.
The Wall Street Journal saying this guy is retiring due to an investigation into his alleged sexual misconduct is not the one where you say, what a legend. Here's the flowers. Here's your flowers, sir.
Yeah.
Not the one.
The tweet that says this man did a little raping. That's not the one where you say, excuse me, sir, legendary raping. Okay?
Right. Hey, that
raping.
legend. Hey, he may have raped, but that guy's a legend. So you stop. All right.
Yeah. So that I think is where you lose me from. All right, you had a personal relationship with the guy. You got blinders on, intentional. But the tweet that he quote tweeted, that's a little
not
rough.
The one.
That's a little rough. That's a bad job. You can't, that's a little rough. I admit. But, as far as his jobs, they're not going to affect the on-screen, so I don't really give a shit where he worked. From that standpoint, it doesn't matter to me. And I mean, for jobs like that, you kind of want to have people with wrestling experience. I mean, it helps that this guy has booked buildings for pro wrestling. If he's going to come in and book buildings for you for pro wrestling, he's got established relationships with people who run the buildings. You know, you can't be like, well, he worked for the enemy. I don't want that guy. No, you got a leg up if you hire someone who already has his foot in the door and knows all of these people who run the buildings. So, you know, it's a little bit of the tribalism again. People get all fired up over things that, you know, that's not something to get fired up over. You know, the guy's booking buildings. He's not booking he's not booking Collision this Saturday.
Yeah. Now I think that AEW probably should be mindful of not of hiring people outside of the business, just because there's new, fresh ideas. Just like we talked about with this Lee Fitting guy, getting a guy in who has only been doing college football and always been doing Monday Night Football. You guys have been doing, you know, football on ESPN or whatever. There's new ideas that come. You don't always get new ideas if you're just hiring people from other wrestling companies to come in and help out with your wrestling company. I think it's a good idea to maybe grab people from outside of the business and whether it be concert promoters or other, you know, guys like, but he's been doing stuff with the professional bull riding and all that sort of stuff. And this isn't one that I get that upset about, but I do think AEW should be mindful of trying to get people from outside of wrestling as well to do, you know, whether it be production wise or a little bit of writing or whatever. I just think there's a little bit more. I struggle with the idea of just only hiring people that have been in the wrestling business before. I think that you have to try that.
I agree when it comes to jobs that affect the on-screen and the product.
Right.
100%. The guy that books where the next collision's going to be, I don't give a shit.
Yeah, I'm not that worried about that. Although I do wish that he would be open to booking different, unique buildings too. I think that's one of the problems that I think AEW had in 2023 was just booking insert whatever random basketball arena in whatever town or whatever. And I think there's so many cool venues and different and unique venues out there that felt like the lifeblood of AEW during the first couple of years, is that they booked weird places, that they were in strange places that you've never seen before, like, you know, Arthur Ashe. That's a guy who had to think outside the box to say, why the hell have we now tried Arthur Ashe, and said, oh yeah, let's call Arthur Ashe, as opposed to just, hey, we're in X town, so we go to X basketball arena in X town, and then it's over. You know, I think that would be, you know, different concert venues, different theaters, different arenas like that, I think would be really, really cool. And you know, being inspired by watching the Daily's Place show last night and being like, yeah, this is cool. This is different. WWE would never do a show like this. This is a place to kind of book show. There's other places out like that out there that I wish AEW would be more mindful of or try to book a little bit more. But, you know, it is what it is. I'm not going to get too up in arms about this this guy. So there you go. That is the executive level movement going on in AEW and WWE. So let's you want to talk about New Japan real quick?
Of course, it's on the run sheet.
It is on the run sheet. So some interesting lineups announced by New Japan over the next month or so, basically all the way up till end of February. Actually, we have their biggest business end of the cards here. These are not the full cards, but just actually the matches that really, you know, kind of matter: title matches, singles matches, that sort of stuff. So you have January 13th. They're coming to San Jose for Battle in the Valley. That show features Okada versus Will Ospreay in your main event. That's a hell of a main event. The semi-main event, not to be outdone, Shingo Takagi and Jon Moxley. Man, I got to get to San Jose. This show sounds fucking incredible. Is that this weekend? What am I doing? Why am I talking to you?
This weekend.
The fuck am I doing here? The hell am I doing sitting here? I got to get to San Jose.
How are tickets looking?
Let me find. Yes, let me actually. Well, I meant to do that because I did want to talk about TNA Hard to Kill, which I think was able to get some pretty decent ticket movement going. So let me see if I can find out Battle in the Valley.
So I'll talk through the rest of the card. So Okada, Ospreay, and Takagi, Moxley. I mean, you know, the top two matches are just look incredible.
Fuck.
But then you've got Eddie Kingston defending one title, 3 titles.
Joe,
Nobody knows.
I don't know. Every week we get a Patreon comment to your Thursday Dynamite review or something I write that says, hey, so what's the deal with Eddie Kingston? I'm like, brother, I don't know. Ask Tony.
Ask Tony.
I
no
don't
one
know.
knows.
I thought I know.
I have no clue.
Every time I think I know, something else gets said and then I don't know anymore. Gabe Kidd says, like, I thought I had it, and then Gabe Kidd was like, yeah, I want that New Japan Strong title. I'm like, I don't know anymore. I don't know. So who knows?
I don't know what it's for. I have no clue. We're only going to find out when Kingston loses a match eventually.
Right.
And are they going to hand the challenger 3 title belts or 1 title belt? A real curveball would be 2 title belts. I don't fucking know. I have no clue what this thing is. if it gets defended separately or together. People answer me when I ask with supreme confidence, and they're full of shit because I don't believe anyone knows the answer to this. It's just a complete and total mystery. So Eddie Kingston will be defending something. I think we can confidently say that the New Japan Strong title at minimum is on the line in this match. Whether the other two are part of that, I got no fucking clue. The New Japan Strong women's title, Julia defends against Trish Adora. And I guess at this point, we have to think that Julia could lose any of these matches at any point now because she's allegedly on her way out. So this could be a title change because when else would they have her defending this title? I mean, I don't know when the next American show. So, she can lose any one of these. Then we have the Strong openweight tag titles. Remember, Phantasmo and Hikuleo own both sets of belts, but they're defending them separately over the next couple of weeks.
Yes.
So they'll defend the Strong. And that's not confusing at all either, Rich. It's really great that New Japan, for some reason, has two sets of tag team titles. So they defend the Strong set of tag team titles on this show as I battle hiccups against Alex Coughlin and Clark Connors. And then we also have David Finlay versus TJP because why the fuck not? And I think he's done with the Aswag or whatever. Because I think he's advertised on all these shows just as TJP.
Okay, so Aswag is officially done.
I think the Aswag Filipino lore character. I think that was just
on the shelf. On the shelf for now. A Wrestle Kingdom special. Yeah, a Wrestle Kingdom special. Battle in the Valley. This is January 5th, so I'm sure a lot of tickets have changed since then. January 5th, it had set up for $2,099. Just over 1,500 had been sold, so only about 500 tickets were left. That's January 5th. So I'd imagine that a lot more movement has happened since then. So we'll see. I'll keep.
How many did you say?
They have sold 1,500 of the 2,099 setup. So only about 500 tickets were left. I would have guessed that they get to 2,000 pretty easily.
They're going to sell most or all of those,
yeah.
I would say. If they get to what's the exact figure?
2,099. 2,099.
If they get to that number, that's only about 100 less than they did with Sasha.
Yeah,
I think that show did 2,200. So I don't know.
I will say 2 hours ago they just posted this that they're coming to Chicago, Wintrust Arena. They're running Wintrust for Windy City Riot April 12th. Set up for 3,530. They're just doing the lower bowl of the Wintrust Arena already. Pre-sale ticket wise, 1,260 tickets sold. So they've healthy sale just 2 hours ago. Have about 2,270 tickets left, but that's a very good pre-sale number and very well priced ticket. So I think that is a show that I think once they start announcing some stuff, I think is going to get pretty well.
They've got 2,200 tickets out in Chicago already.
No, they have 1,260 tickets.
Oh, I
sold.
thought you said 2,200.
No. 2,200 is what's still available, but it's only been the pre-sale, and that was 2 hours ago. That number's probably even a little bit higher in terms of distributed, and it's only the pre-sale. So there's 90 whatever days until the show. It's in April, so yeah, they got plenty of time to keep that going.
Oh, they're gonna put over 2,000 people in that
easily.
building.
Yeah, they're trying to get 3,500. I don't know if they're gonna get to 3,500, but probably get pretty close.
I was surprised they were running Wintrust. If they could put a big match in there, maybe, who knows? But Battle in the Valley is stacked. So that's going to do about 2,000 fans, which is about what they did last year with Okada versus Tanahashi and Sasha Banks making her debut.
Mm-hmm.
So that looks like it's going to be a successful show. Those top two are big time matches. So, you would think that that's not even much of a surprise. So then we'll go over the big matches from the New Beginning tour. The tour is loaded. It's
a great tour.
So January 20th is New Beginning in Nagoya.
No, it doesn't start great. Stick with us. If you're wondering, it's going to get great. I promise.
Well, Nagoya's okay. So they're doing 4 New Beginning shows. So they're doing a double shot in Sapporo at the end of February, and they're doing Nagoya and Osaka, of course. Nagoya is January 20th. Osaka's February 11th. So this Nagoya show is the smallest of the 4. This will have the King of Pro Wrestling, Taiji Ishimori versus Great Khan. They did announce the stip. Do you have it? Or I think, let me see if I can find it.
Okay, so I don't know if did they actually agree on it? I thought both guys gave what their stip was going to be.
Both guys announced the stips.
Okay.
They have to vote on the stips, but both guys announced the stips. Anyway, I'll move on.
Yeah, I'll see if I can find it. I saw it out there, so okay, here we go.
Oh, you got it. All right, go ahead.
So Ishimori is going to do 10-minute Ishimori ring fit match.
Yeah, well, no one knows what the fuck that means, so okay.
In this match, the last to hold the belt via decision after 10 minutes will win.
Oh, so it's a fucking old WWF hardcore title.
Yes. However, at 3-minute intervals, both competitors will have to undergo 30 seconds of high-intensity circuit training.
Oh, my God. Okay.
So he's fit, so he's like, I'm going to make you run and do jumping jacks and push-ups and burpees and stuff like that. So there you go. Okan, I don't know what Okan is. Oh, he's doing a bull rope death match.
Oh, that's Okan. That makes sense.
Yeah, he's doing a bull rope death match. So you got a bull rope death match and a 10-minute Ishimori ring fit match.
Alrighty. Never open weight title. Tama Tonga versus Evil. They shot an angle a couple days ago where House of Torture broke into the New Japan offices and removed Tama Tonga from the roster page. They've also stolen the physical title belt. So Tama Tonga did film a promo today. I don't know if you saw that on his that he put out on Twitter, saying that Evil will pay for this.
Right, and they showed a video of Evil walking into the New Japan studio.
Yeah, which is hilarious. Yeah.
So good. Yeah. The best part was people freaking out about this and different wrestling reporters being like, "I will look into this." It's I don't know. They've all maybe been in on the work or whatever. I don't know. It's kind of funny to see happen. I don't care. This stuff is funny, so it's fine. It's the most endearing Evil and House of Torture have been pretty much the entire time that they've existed. So I appreciate it.
So Korakuen Hall on the 23rd has Master Wato versus Sho in a singles match. You know, there's a lot of just singles matches on this tour.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that's the Tanahashi effect, or are
maybe
we getting too much into that?
I don't know. Maybe I'd like to think so.
I like it. I think it's in New Japan. It's a rarity, and it's better than watching a bunch of 6-man tags, and you can work angles off of them. So I'm into it. So it's Wato versus Sho, and then for the junior title's on the line. Despi's first defense is Yoshinobu Kanemaru. That's a Korakuen level defense, and Kanemaru hasn't really been in the mix for the singles junior title in a while, so I'm okay with that program for, a little Korakuen Hall payoff. I got no problem with it. The next night, they come back again, Korakuen Hall. Hiromu and Tetsuya Naito versus Sanada and Duki, because Sanada and Naito are not done with each other, apparently. So that feud will continue through this tour. Unfortunately, thought we were done with Sanada. We spoke too soon. We jinxed it. And Shota Umino versus Ren Narita. So that's a pretty big singles match for those guys.
Mm-hmm. In Korakuen Hall.
They've been feuding.
In Korakuen, too. That's cool.
In Korakuen, exactly. And they've been feuding. And, of course, it's two of the, next generation of guys, two of the new Musketeers and all that. So they come back to Korakuen on February 4th. Hanare versus Gabe Kidd. Jeff Cobb versus Alex Coughlin. Callum Newman versus David Finlay. So Callum Newman getting a big singles match on a Korakuen. And that is where the junior titles will be defended on the tour. Akira Francesca and TJP, no asswag, versus Clark Connors and Drilla Maloney. So we're getting the rematch there from Wrestle Kingdom in Korakuen Hall on February 4th. And then we have the Osaka New Beginning show. So this is one of the bigger ones.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there were some surprises on here that really, people weren't expecting. Zack Sabre Jr. versus Bryan Danielson. Who saw that coming?
Nobody. I remember when that got announced. I was like, okay. Bryan Danielson got home and was just like, I can't wait to go back to Japan. I mean, that we talked about it on our instant reaction for Wrestle Kingdom. The palpable, obvious smile. I mean, that guy was grinning from ear to ear. You knew he loved it, and you knew he couldn't wait to get back there. So I bet he came home and was like, fuck it, when can I get back there? And probably talked to AEW and said, hey, I want to get back there in February. And they found this match, and they're doing it. And it's not even the main event. It's a semi-main event of this show. That is a hell of a show. Sabre and Bryan Danielson is your semi-main event. That's awesome.
Yeah. So Danielson, we all thought he was going to go work Wrestle Kingdom and then, get that out of his system. He's flying right back, baby. February 11th, Osaka.
It's in his blood now. He's not retiring. He's just going to become a New Japan Pro Wrestling regular, I guess.
Yeah. So Never open-weight titles will be defended on this show. It's Tanahashi, Okada, and Ishii versus TMDK. In this case, it is Nichols and Haste with Kosei Fujita. Kosei Fujita is the guy we always forget to talk about. We talk about Tsuji and Amino, Uemura, and
of the young guys, yeah.
And he's part of that group. He just never went on excursion because Zack Sabre Jr. just grabbed him and said, you're in TMDK now. He gave him a T-shirt, and that was it. And, they elevate him at that moment from young lion to roster member. And he's in that same class of guys. And I love everything I've seen out of him. I think he has, he's got some upside too. And I don't think he gets the same discussion that the other four get. Phantasmo and Hikuleo defend the IWGP tag team titles. Remember, they're split against Chase Owens and Kenta. I wasn't sure how they felt about Kenta. They didn't bring him in for Wrestle Kingdom. They haven't used him in ages, but I guess he's still...
Oh, you're right. Yeah, I never noticed that he wasn't there at Wrestle Kingdom. You're right.
You don't notice he's not around. He's just on the fringes of the roster at this point. So, I'm sure he doesn't mind. I know he lives in America. I know he probably doesn't mind flying back to Japan 6 times a year, right? To see family, be back in fucking Japan. I don't know. But you're at the point where you're like tag teaming with Chase Owens. And they don't bring you in for the Rambo. Like, what are we doing here? Right? Like So, and then they're doing a cage match. 5-on-5 cage match.
Oh, this
United
looks
Kingdom
fucking
versus
awesome.
Bullet Club.
This looks incredible. This is going to be so good.
Is this the new Prez? What's happening?
I don't know, man. But this is Ospreay's final match, right? Or he said my final match in New Japan, whether that's contracted or whatever, because I assume he'll pop up back there again. But 5-on-5 cage, it has to end here. United Empire, Bullet Club in a cage. Ospreay. I mean, geez, these guys are gonna bleed buckets. Ospreay's gonna do a bunch of dumb shit. This is gonna be fucking incredible.
It's gonna be so good. And give it up for Will Ospreay. This guy just signed a life-changing lottery ticket with AEW. Okay, his life has changed forever. He is now a rich man, and he's going out New Japan against Okada and a cage match.
Yep.
He doesn't have to do this. He absolutely does not have to do this and put his body on the line, because that Okada match is going to be balls to the fucking wall. Okay, they're not going to hold back. And then 2 weeks later, he's going to get in there in a cage and do God knows what inside of a fucking cage when he's got millions of dollars waiting for him a month later in AEW. That's, speaking of which, I want to bring this up quickly too. Nick Nemeth took an Australia booking, which again is, look, that guy's going to get on an airplane for 15 hours.
It's a long flight.
To work an indie show in Australia. This is more evidence that we talked about last week. He's serious about this. He could easily do the Northeast fucking WWE nostalgia indies and mail it in and not take any bumps and just wrestle Enzo Amore from here until the end of time in, Long Island, New York. But he's going to Puerto Rico where he's going to have to work those brawls, and that's a real place to work where you're going to have to put some effort in. He's coming to New Japan, which we'll talk about in a minute. And he's flying to Australia. I mean, this is a guy who I have a feeling he's going to work hard. This is not the booking patterns of someone who wants to just make the easy money. No, by the way,
he's hungry. He's hungry, and I love to see it.
He's hungry. That's it. I had someone tell me, reach out. I saw Mustafa Ali. Pretty expensive to get him to work your show. Let me just put it that way.
Okay.
Let me just put it that way. Mustafa Ali is not rolling out of bed unless you write the big check.
No brother discount. No brother discounts.
No. If you have Mustafa Ali at work in your local indie, I would say go support it.
Buy tickets.
Big fan of your local indie.
Buy tickets. Yeah.
Bring your friends. Bring your friends. February 4th, that's what we just did. We just did that. We did New Beginning in Osaka. New Beginning is Sapporo. The first is February 23rd and 24th.
This is a weird show. This is a weird show.
Yeah, very weird. 2 nights in Sapporo. They go up there a couple times a year. Sometimes they open up the G1 tour up there because they want to get it out of the way, and then they come back down, to their usual haunts. This time of year, it might be some rough weather up there, huh? February 23rd in Hokkaido up in Sapporo.
Yeah.
That is it. They run into some snowstorms sometimes.
Yes. Yeah, I get a lot of Instagram. They must think I really want to be in like northern Japan for something, because I get like my Instagram algorithm is just like, here's snow in Hokkaido all the time. And that's what I got in the last week, is just snow in Hokkaido. So yeah, I guess it's pretty snowy there right now, I would assume. So
that's where they're bringing in Riddle and Nemeth. Riddle against Tanahashi for the TV title, and Nemeth versus David Finlay for the global heavyweight title. I thought Nemeth's promo when he jumped Finlay at the presser was really good and effective. I thought his promo that he did with the backstage interviewer after he jumped David Finlay at the presser was the drizzling shits, and I don't even think they should have aired it. I mean, I thought it was horrendous. So I'm not super confident that he's going to be able to handle promos without the WWE hand-holding. Here's what we want you to say. Here's how we want you to say it. Use our, WWE cadence. Because he's 1 for 2. And the one that was good was a fiery promo where you can tell he was channeling some real feelings. Because it was all about, I don't know if you saw it, but it was all about, he jumps Finlay at the presser, he grabs the title belt, and he's holding it up to the press, and he's going, I have to prove myself. People have only seen me in one place, but I know that I could. And you could tell that was coming from like a place inside where there was some reality to that. Like he was expressing some real feelings, right? And it was a really good promo. And then the one he did with the interview lady, I'm sorry, I don't know her name. She was working the Wrestle Kingdom show, and she was there for that week doing the English stuff. And she was bad too. She was not very good. But this was more of a explaining his actions, and he repeated himself over and over, almost like he wasn't confident that he was getting the message across that he was trying to get across. So he kept repeating it. And my God, it was bad. I would have said, let's redo it. Collect your thoughts. Let's send that message once. Stop repeating yourself. Let's figure it out. But, you always see, even in AEW sometimes I'll see a promo and I'm like, why did they not just reshoot that? That was terrible. But these, I don't know. And maybe they do. Maybe that's the best of 9 terrible takes for all I know. But anyway, I thought it was hit or miss. And that's, I think, if Mercedes Moné does sign with AEW, I'm concerned about her promos there.
I'd be very concerned. Yeah, I have not heard her speak in a non-WWE role that makes me confident that she's going to be any good. She was terrible in New Japan. Anytime she was in Stardom and talked, she was not very good thinking on her feet at all.
She is not even average. She's bad. She's a bad talker. And in AEW, they don't hold your hand. I could tell you some stories. Hey, you guys are next in the ring live. Okay. What do you want us to, what are we doing? Oh, you're a good talker. Just go out there and talk. I mean, that's a reality in AEW at times. I'm not saying every time. Okay. But would you trust Sasha Banks in that spot?
No.
No. It's, you don't have the net, and you're not always, given, like, you have to think, you got to come up with your, like Nick Nemeth with that interview girl at Wrestle Kingdom. He's got to come up with his own words. And he was terrible. Let alone coming up with, he knew what he wanted to get across. He just couldn't come up with the words. So these people who came up in that system and don't know anything else, it's the promos I worry about even more than, adjusting to a different working style. Nick Nemeth is a great athlete and a good wrestler. And I feel like if he isn't acclimated right away to the working style, he'll get it eventually, especially if he's hungry. Mercedes Moné is great. We all know that, and she had really good matches. I thought her run wasn't awesome, but the Kyrie match I thought was really great. And the other matches were okay. So I don't worry about that as much. The promos I worry about.
Yeah.
So I just thought of that when Nemeth came up. But next night in Sapporo, Bushi versus Taka Michinoku, Hiromu versus Doki, Yota Tsuji versus Yuya Uemura, and Shingo versus Taichi. Because remember, this is the just 5 guys and LIJ feud continuing on here on this tour. And the main event, Tetsuya Naito versus Sonata. So this is disappointing to me. I didn't want to see Sonata again. But could you imagine if he fucking wins? Do you think he has any chance?
Do I
can't write it off, right?
You can't write it off, unfortunately. I mean, it's not impossible, and it's actually got me slightly worried, to be honest. The fact that they're going right back to him does have me a little bit worried. So I don't know if it's a clear, okay, he's lost and now he's in the rear view, or okay, you guys got the roll call, but now we're back. You can't write it off. It's not a 0. I wouldn't put it at like, I don't think he's the favorite to win, but I don't know, 30% chance. Does that seem too high?
It's too high for me.
Too high. I mean, very high for me. My rate would be 0 if I was guessing, but if I was betting,
1% is too much of a threat.
Yeah, to I agree. But it's ominous. I don't know why. It's ominous.
Yeah, we got to move on from this. He's got to just have LIJ sweep these geeks on this show. Just beat them all, and let's please just move on.
Yeah,
I can't take it anymore. It's just not interesting. So. But a lot of big matches, all these shows have some matches that you can sink your teeth into, and it's going to be interesting to see Riddle and Nemeth in those environments. And that's New Japan.
All right. Real quickly before we get to the last few topics that we have officially launched the match of the year for 2023. So if you were a previous voter over the last couple of years, or you've requested a ballot before this week, you have received your ballot in your email this week. If you haven't, just let us know, or email MOTY@voicesofwrestling.com, MOTY, match of the year, @voicesofwrestling.com, and let us know if you have not received your ballot. But check your email. Maybe go to your spam. I think most people, it shouldn't go in the spam, but if it does, it might be in there. But if you were listening to this and you were a wrestling media member, you're a podcaster, you're a blogger, you're a reviewer, you do anything in the pro wrestling media space, and you want a ballot, you have not voted in the previous years, definitely hit us up. Again, MOTY@voicesofwrestling.com to request a ballot, and we will get one to you. We'll got about a week and a half, or about a week until next Sunday, basically, to send in your completed ballots. But we try to get as many people as possible. We've broken records every single year with the amount of voters that we've had, so we'd love to do that again this year. So if you are listening to this and you're a wrestling media member, you haven't voted prior, but you'd like to vote this year, please hit us up. You can comment anywhere, ask any place that we check. Discord is a good place as well, voicesofwrestling.com /Discord, and we will send you over a ballot, and you can vote on your top 10 matches of the year, and then we'll do a rollout of every single match that received votes. Obviously, we'll highlight the top 10 more than others, but it's a really, really cool thing we do. It's one of the best things we do at Voices of Wrestling, so I'm really happy to finally be able to launch it again this year, and it's our 10th year as well. Can you believe that? Our 10th year doing Match of the Year. I was kind of blown away when I was like, wait a minute, oh my God, it's been 10 years since we've done Match of the Year. That's wild. But 10 years. So there you go. That's out there. Again, check your email if you've been a prior voter, if you've requested one. But hit us up if you'd like another one, or if you'd like a ballot, or you did not receive one in the email. Again, only wrestling media, so not just, hey, I listen to your show and I'm a patron. No, wrestling media. You got to be doing a podcast. You got to be writing about it. You got to be reviewing. You got to be doing something in the pro wrestling media space. We are devoted to keeping it wrestling media only. We don't want fan polls, because fan polls are usually pretty terrible. So wrestling media only.
Jeez, Rich.
Well, I mean, they're terrible. They're really bad. They really are.
The point, see, I'll be a little more diplomatic.
Okay.
When we rolled this thing out 10 years ago, we just wanted to do something different. What's the point of another fan poll when there's a million fan polls out there and there's more being added each year? So we thought it would just be more interesting to do a media only poll, because it gives a little different spin or wrinkle to it. It's not because we're being douchebags and non-inclusive and looking our noses down on the common man, but there's a million different places where fans can vote for, where I vote for, there's other places where I vote for Match of the Year. So this is just different in that regard, where people can say, oh, okay, this is a media poll for Match of the Year, because why does the world need another fan poll? Where if we do a fan poll, we might have the Venn diagram of people doing ours and people doing the Observer, let's say, because I would say that we have a lot of crossover listeners and readers, it might be 20%, 30%, 40%, 50%. So then at that point, what's the point? Like we're just doing the same poll with the same people and getting slightly different results. So this one's a little different in that, it's media people. And the other reason, as we've never hidden before, and full transparency, it's a great marketing tool because people from other outlets will do our poll and they want to show their ballots to their readers, to their listeners. They want to brag about their ballots. They want to brag that they participated. They interact with us and then we get exposed to their audience. Right. And then maybe, we pick up and then they may say, oh, what's this Voice of Wrestling thing? So it's one of the most successful articles we do every year. There's a lot of eyeballs on it. And I do believe it has been one of our best growth tools over the last 10 years. It's been a success from that standpoint and has earned us exposure far more than Aggregation ever did. That's for sure. So those are some of the more, Rich just carpet bombing you guys with slander, with the fan polls being garbage. But yeah, no, those are some of the legitimate reasons why, with the mindset behind it. So,
right. And we publicize everybody that, you get a full list of everybody that voted. And if you send in comments, you get, linked and whatnot and shouted out with your site or whatever. So we try to make it helps us more than it helps you, but it's symbiotic in a lot of ways. I think it helps everybody a little bit more than Aggregation does. So that's our match of the year. Again, it is launched, so if you voted prior years, check your email inbox. Emails you've voted with prior, that'll be there. But it also, again, if you need to request a ballot, just hit us up on many different platforms. There are many different ways, and we'll get you a ballot. So real quickly, let's get through the last parts of this show here. Let's talk about MLW King of Coliseum, because we both watched that, so we might as well do that first. You said, oh boy, I thought this was a fine show. Okay. I thought it was okay. Like is strong. Like is strong. I thought it was a fine show. I did not hate my life while I was watching MLW's King of Coliseum on Triller Plus, powered by Fight TV or whatever the hell it is now. But of course, this took place January 6th from where fucking else but the 2300 Arena, the residency that MLW has in this fucking 2300 Arena. But every time there's a whole bunch of fans there making a whole bunch of noise. I don't understand who these people are, but God bless them for showing up to MLW's bi-monthly premium live events or whatever. But MLW King of Coliseum. Do you want to go match by match with this, or do you just want to do pithy thoughts about the show itself?
We could do it quickly. First, the Matt Striker thing. Let's just get that out of the way. I mean, he made a complete fool of himself on the commentary in the main event. Now, look, here's the thing. In pro wrestling, in pro sports, you're going to have to, if you're calling a match or a game, eventually you're going to come across an athlete who's a bit unsavory, who people don't like for a variety of reasons, or who, in Matt Riddle's case, have some accusations out there that are hanging over their head. And anyone reasonable, I should say, most people, 99.9% of the people listening understand that you have a job to do, okay? And it's to call the action. And as long as you stick to calling the action, nobody's going to get on your case, okay? Because you're not the one who signed the guy. You're not the one who booked the guy. You're not the one who signed the player. You're just there doing a job, and your job is to call, in this case, the show and call the match.
Right.
Matt Striker decided, for some unknown reason, to just go on this unhinged, rambling rant.
Right, to get on a soapbox about Matt Riddle, of all people.
Yeah, defending Matt Riddle's accusations, and, paraphrasing, no one should care what this man is, because look at what kind of a fighter he is and what an athlete, and this is such a great coup for MLW.
Well, at one point saying, I know that it's all about the court of public opinion these days, and that's just the world we live in. It's like, brother, you don't have to do all this.
You don't need to do this. Just call the match. And no one.
And poor Joe Dombrowski, who's as professional as professionals go, is just like, people say, all right, well, Matt Riddle in the ring, just trying to like deflect. I'm not saying yes. I'm not saying no. I'm not ignoring you. I'm just, let's talk about the action in the ring, Matt. Here we go.
And the thing is, Riddle kept not Riddle, and Stryker kept going back to it,
Right.
like he wouldn't leave it alone. And it's like just a total own goal. You know, you don't. It's just come on, man. And then he did apologize on Twitter a couple days later. He said he was completely out of line.
Well, he started by saying I'm a heel and that's what heels do, and I'm playing a character. And then the next day said, "Nope, sorry, that's not the right response. That's not a good idea. I shouldn't have said that. I apologize. That wasn't right," and sort of stuff. So.
Yeah, it's, you know, he's just completely out of line.
Call the action,
not
brother.
Guy,
call the action, brother. Come on.
Yeah, and look, and he doesn't have a reputation for being Lance Russell. I mean, everybody thinks he kind of stinks at the job to begin with, and this doesn't help. You know, it's I don't know what the fuck he was thinking. It's just, you know, completely, it's just completely out of line. You know, ridiculous. It's the kind of thing that can cost MLW some business too, if, you know, people are fucking annoyed by that. But I mean, that was the best match on the show, though, by a mile. I mean, to me, nothing was even close. It seems like you like the show a little better than me. I didn't really like the rest of the show at all. I thought it ranged from stuff that was kind of just there to stuff that I'm just like, when is this gonna? Do I really need 2 plunder death matches in a row? That I don't know.
I would have split those up. I would have split those up a little bit. While I did, I thought both of them were pretty good plunder death matches. They should have been at different parts of the show. It was a little lot.
Too much.
There's a lot to watch an hour straight of guys hitting each other with shit.
What is this, GCW? I don't watch that for a reason. I mean, it was just too much. It was too much of it. You know, I'm not watching Freedoms here. You know, so yeah, split it up. I have no use for the comedy blindfold match.
Oh,
no use for that.
Love Doug and Brett Ryan Gosselin. Yeah, that was. The blindfold thing is like, it's a weird gimmick that I hate. I hate blindfold matches. I think they're really dumb.
They're terrible.
They always start out okay because the fans are really into it for a little bit. And there's that first spot where like the baby face is pointing and the fans are like, yeah, there he is. He's right there. Go. And then you realize, like, once you see that once, you're kind of done. Like WrestleMania 7, you had that Rick Martel versus Jake Roberts. And that was fun for like 3 minutes. And then you're like, all right, I get the idea. I get the shtick. Let's go. Now it's like, I'm glad that this one ended in 3 minutes, but the shtick was already getting old 3 minutes in. So, and also it was really weird because Brett Ryan, if you didn't see this match, which most of you didn't see this, I'm saying it like you, me, and like 2 other people listening to this watch the show. So the gimmick was that there was a blindfold match or whatever. Brett Ryan Gosselin took his hood off while the referee was distracted and hit Love Doug with a pair of brass knuckles. But then after like 35 seconds, Love Doug got back in the ring and then rolled up Brett Ryan Gosselin and won. So it's like, okay. I don't know.
I just don't have any use for these kinds of wrestlers either.
No, Love Dog's he's like the human Cupid or something like that. And Brett Ryan Gosselin's like a superstar, movie star guy. And it's not
over
good.
The top cornball gimmicks. And MLW is supposed to be where they call matches
fighters. These are fighters. Yeah, upcoming fights.
And
here's our upcoming fights that we're going to have. And the shows are upcoming fights. And it's like, all right.
Like it's a boxing promotion. And then you give us Love Doug, the human Cupid, and Brett Ryan Gosselin, who's like doing a Ryan Gosling gimmick. And they're doing a blindfold match. It's just.
Because Love Doug has the hots for Brett Ryan Goslin's girlfriend. And he's been sending her love letters. And then. It's terrible.
And I don't know if you've been watching MLW.
No.
I watched their,
no, of course not. Why?
But so I have, and I watched the holiday.
No, I watched these shows. That's it.
I watched the Holiday Rush show, the 2-hour TV special they did from Melrose Ballroom in New York, and they did a little bit of this on this pay-per-view too. But they're taking on a lot of WWE production traits. A lot of the backstage stuff is shot the way WWE shoots it, where the camera kind of goes back and forth, and it's the invisible camera thing, you know, and the interviewer staring into space after someone answers, doing bad acting skits and things like that, where it's comedy, but none of it's funny. I don't know what they're doing. They have an identity crisis right now. You know, that's never what MLW was. And I know that the WT, the World Titan Federation thing they're doing, but that's supposed to be a parody of WWE.
Right.
The stuff I'm talking about is they're taking on WWE style production. And man, I don't even want to watch WWE, so I'm definitely not going to watch it in MLW. I will just hand wave the promotion if this is the direction they're going. I hate it. And it doesn't fit the aesthetic that they've built for a number of years. And look, you could argue that what they've built isn't working, so maybe they should try something else. But this will be, and that's fine, but they're going to lose me because I really don't have use for dollar store WWE, so anyway, quickly go through the show and then we'll get to NWA and wrap this up. The 6-man opener, it was Alec Price, Dylan McKay, and Marcus Mathers over Griffin McCoy, TJ Crawford, and Tony Deppen. It just was an indie 6-man you can see.
Right.
On
yeah.
any
You've
indie
seen
show.
this
It was fun.
same match 1,000 times on every indie ever. Yeah.
With the same people.
With
same
largely
people.
the same people too. Yes.
Yeah. So then it was Janai Kai defending the women's featherweight title against Hyper Maseo. I had never seen this Hyper Maseo before. I have a new least favorite wrestler. Oh my
yeah,
god!
For people that haven't seen Hyper, she comes out on a bike and she's like a fake superhero, and she rides around in her little bicycle. And
the perfect Joe Lanza wrestler right there.
Yep. Yeah.
Doing spots with the bike too, like riding by on the bike and doing a really weak lariat that Janai Kai has to sell like she got hit by Stan Hansen.
Yeah.
Yeah, shit like that.
This was no good, yeah, because Hyper Masao is not very good, and Janai Kai not exactly Minami Toyota out there either. So this was brutal.
No.
This was brutal.
It's this Hyper Maseo, really, she can get lost. I hope I never have to watch this person wrestle ever again. And it's Tokyo Joshi Pro, right? So
I believe so. Yeah.
I will never watch that promotion. So hopefully, like MLW doesn't bring her back or anything, and because this was not a wrestler for me. I didn't find her as annoying as who's the one I really hate?
Maki Ito, I think, is the one you hate
Maki
the most.
Ito, yeah. Now look, nothing's going to be worse than that. But it was close. It was close. This was like, WWE rolls out this gimmick every decade or so. You had the Hurricane.
The Nikki ASH, the Hurricane, the Rosie, the shit.
Well, don't forget, shit.
Yep.
Yes. So, they were going to do it with Pac. Remember? They were going to make him like a
Mighty Mouse. Yeah,
Vince
wanted that dude to be Mighty Mouse like 4 or 5 different times. And then Pac
he must have thought he looked like a rodent.
Yes.
Like he must have thought like his face was ugly or something and wanted to make him a rodent. Well, listen, he's not the best looking fella. I don't know if he looks like a rodent, but but Vince thought he did, obviously. But anyway, I hate this gimmick. I hate the bike, and the less said, the better. Tag team titles. This was the first of the 2 plunder matches. One called Manders and Matthew Justice. They defeated the World Titan Federation interlopers. In this case, it was Tom Lawlor and Josh Bishop.
I kind of enjoyed this.
It was fine. Yeah.
I kind of enjoyed this. And the reason why is because Josh Bishop rocks. And you have Hyper Masao, in the match before, and she's cosplaying a superhero, and that fucking sucks, and I don't want to watch that. In this match, you had Josh Bishop cosplaying Sid, and I like that. So he's basically just powerbombing guys through tables and then doing Sid taunts the entire time. So I appreciated that. He threw one called Manders, through a table, basically missed the entire table, basically just powerbombed one called Manders from the ring to the floor, and then did that awesome Sid, thing where he would get down on one knee and go like, I'm the master of the rule of the world, like that sort of thing. It's so fucking rocked. So yeah, cosplaying Sid better than cosplaying a superhero. So enjoyed that. But yeah, this was fine. But again, you've seen this exact same match 1,000 times.
30 years after Ian and Axel Rotten had their infamous Taipei death match in this same building, Ricky Shane Page and Akira at the ECW Arena Taipei death match. And again, it was fine.
It was actually okay. I actually enjoyed this match more than I enjoy probably 100% of Ricky Shane Page matches. This may have been the best Ricky Shane Page match I've ever seen, because it was, at its core, it was just a perfect pro wrestling story. You have Akira, the blossoming babyface who's been held under by Ricky Shane Page, and now he's here to kind of break through and get the big win against his former partner and the guy that was holding him down and that sort of stuff. So it all kind of made sense in that sense. Like, yeah, you had the Taipei death match, and yeah, they were hitting each other with shit, and there was a lot of standing around waiting for each other to hit each other, but they're both bleeding buckets, and it still had a good babyface versus heel story. And then you had Sami Callihan interfere and help Ricky Shane Page win. And I don't really need to watch Sami Callihan and Ricky Shane Page ever on my TV screen.
I guess we probably should have put him in the contract season roundup, because it looks like he's going to be a regular, because he came out at later in the show too. So yeah, it was just too much plunder for me altogether. You should have stuck something in between, like you said before. It was poorly poorly put together in terms of booking the show. But and the Akira Ricky Shane Page feud, I thought, has been booked well.
Yeah, very good.
So then later on they brought out Satoshi Kojima, and he's going to be the next world title challenger. And remember, he held this title 21 years ago. So he will be Alex Kane's next challenger. But then Sami Callihan came out again and had a pull apart with Kojima. So we're going to get Kojima, Alex Kane. And
if you're wondering, Sami Callihan's just doing the same thing he's always done. He came out and was like, "Who the hell are you? Get the hell out of my goddamn ring, you son of a bitch. You fucking suck." And it's like, okay, cool, great. Love it.
Spitting everywhere and drool coming out. He's disgusting. Drool coming out.
You're a piece of shit. It's like, okay, Sammy, we got it, Sammy. I've seen that I've heard that exact same fucking Sami Callihan promo.
in Chicago, how many times?
Every fucking
AEW
month, yes. For years.
You're like, Dr. Keith, enough.
Stop
booking this guy.
I said stop. I started leaving before he would get in the main event. I would hear boom, 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 thumbs up, thumbs down. I'm like, I'm out of here. I'm beating traffic. I'm good. I don't need this shit. Yeah,
you're like, definitely thumbs down.
Thumbs down. I'm out. So much so that I believe they Dr. Keith got the pencil there and decided that they did a title switch where Pentagon Jr. beat Sami Callihan in a show that I left early. And I got a text on my way home. He said, did you already leave? And I said, yeah. And he goes, well, you missed Pentagon winning the world title. I was like, fuck you. And then they went right back to Sami like the next month or whatever. So
yeah, they probably booked that specifically.
Yes,
for you,
I believe they may have. But I saved a lot of time on the road, and you know what? I'm fine for it. It's fine.
Rich and Sean Sloan were in a booth at Denny's before Callahan's match was even over.
Yep.
Basically how that worked. So, and he, listen, how can I say this? He's added some weight. He's added some bulk to the frame as well.
Yes.
Sami Callihan.
Mm-hmm.
So he's,
and not in the way that The Rock adds bulk to his frame.
No, this is not raw eggs in the morning and hours in the gym. He is, he's not getting around very well.
No, he tore his Achilles, I think. Wasn't it Achilles a couple years ago? And it's just
that wouldn't help.
And that's tough, help. Man. Yeah, if I tore my Achilles, I'd probably be pretty close to pretty quickly too. So,
it's just the problem is he's not moving around too good with all that extra weight. And it was obvious he wanted into AEW. He was hanging around backstage. He's friends with Moxley. Clearly, Tony had no interest.
Thank God. So, oh, my God. That's how bad AEW got for a little while there that I was like, fuck, they're going to sign Sami Callihan, aren't they? But we're good.
Yeah, and, it looks like he's going to be here because they're, setting up programs with him. We talked about the blindfold match, and then it was Alex Kane over Richard Holiday. Richard Holiday's part of the WTF faction. What happened here? I can't remember.
They just had a kind of a boring match, and Alex Kane just beat him.
Yeah, the match wasn't good.
Nah, there was nothing to it. Alex Kane just beat him. I mean, there really wasn't much to it.
I think if there was an angle afterwards, but there wasn't. There was the Kojima promo is what it was. And then the main event was Matt Riddle and Jacob Fatu, which was, to me, easily the best match on the show. Riddle looked good. Fatu looked good. Fatu lost.
Yeah, you got a rare loss, like a straight clean loss from Jacob Fatu.
Yeah, he on the Holiday Rush show, he beat Hammerstone in the main event, and they had a good match too. Well, it wasn't as good as their match last year, but it was a good match. And then Hammerstone cut the big promo and said goodbye. So he is leaving. So I guess his contract was up on the 1st. So
they got one more date out of him, basically.
They got a couple more dates because he did the WTF gimmick. So World Titan.
Yeah.
So they worked that he was leaving, but that was really a storyline where he joined Mr. Saint Laurent's fake promotion, which is Invading. But now he's really leaving, and he cut the promo, and he put over MLW strong. He said he had tryouts with everybody, but Court Bauer was the one who hired me, and Court Bauer gave me a 10-time raise when he didn't have to before my contract was up. I'll never forget that. And then he said, this might be my last match here. We'll see. And then he said goodbye. So I don't know. I guess he's going to try to see if he can latch on somewhere else. And if he can't, I'm sure that this place would take him back. I mean, there's no reason they wouldn't. He's had a good run. He's in phenomenal shape. I mean, he always is, but he's in like extra phenomenal shape. He's in AJ Styles, Randy Orton shape.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And
Dude,
so
have you ever seen that guy in real life too? He's fucking massive.
I haven't. I don't
he's
think I've
so
ever seen
big. God, he's fucking massive. It's so large.
And he's a passable worker. I would think that someone would bring.
Oh
him in,
yeah. I think he's solid. Yeah, I think he's solid. If I was like TNA or something, I would absolutely sign Alexander Hammerstone.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, he always seems to end up here, but we'll see what happens. But that was the show. I didn't think it was very good. Sounds like you liked it a little better.
I thought it was fine. Yeah, I thought it was fine, but not necessarily. Like I didn't feel like I was wasting my time, but not a show that I'll ever probably go back and and think about or rewatch ever again. Real quick, February 3rd, they have their MLW Super Fight show, Alex Kane versus Kojima, as we said, and then they're doing a CMLL Lucha Libre Showcase Spectacular, Místico versus Averno, presented by Selena De La Renta.
They did the big backstage thing with Selena and Rocky Romero, which Selena was terrible in. By
she was so bad.
She was so bad.
I'm trying to figure out how to make money here. Whatever. And she's on the phone, and it's so good. She's on the phone, and like we don't hear the other side of the conversation. She goes, "I don't care how much it costs. I want 14 floors or 40 floors or something like that." She's just trying to order like something, and it's like, what are you? Oh my god! It's like because they were like, yeah, make sure they like sound like you're having like a big business conversation or whatever, and then it sounded so ridiculous. She talked about buying something that was like 100 floors or whatever. I'm like, what is going on here? This is so bad.
That's what I mean. They're doing WWE style backstage stuff, and it's not good.
The poor Rocky's got to sit there and be like, Selena, it's okay. It's like,
and with like the camera floating around,
right.
It's oh god, it's so cringy. But and then they did the tapings too, and Kojima beat Callahan. He had to because he's getting the title shot, and the rest of the tapings don't look good. But whoever that listener was nailed it because Mance Warner is in fact doing the Good Brother number 3 gimmick because he lost the Loser Leave Town match, so that's what they're doing with him. There were some other Tokyo Joshi Pro ladies on the taping, if people are interested in that. I don't know who Nao Kakuta is or Moka Miyamoto, but if you're interested in them, they did work the taping. And, so Místico and Averno, as Rocky continues to get these guys booked all over the place. So, good for those CMLL guys.
For sure. Real quick, let's real quickly do TNA, and then we'll finish out with NWA. So TNA's got Hard to Kill coming up this weekend, January 13th, from the Palms Casino Resort in Las Vegas. I think they actually ended up getting a pretty decent crowd for that show. It looked a little dicey a couple weeks ago, but let me see if I can get the WrestleTix up quickly. But as far as the build to this, TNA has not produced a new television show in a couple of weeks. It's been clip shows. I thought even this week was going to have something, and I turned it on to do, my job and say, I better get up on the latest in TNA, and it was basically just clips from Final Resolution. So, they're
the Go Home show is right. It happened tonight.
Yeah, well, I was watching the Go Home show, and it was clips.
Oh, that's what you're saying? I thought you meant YouTube.
No.
Oh, great. Okay, fantastic. Sounds awesome.
So I had it on, and I'm like, wait a minute. These are just clips from Final Resolution. So I went into our Discord and said, is this a clip show this week? And they said, yes. So the build is the build. So there we go.
Isn't this a terrible time to have a clip show?
I would say yes. This is a terrible time to have a clip show while you're building to a pay-per-view and you're the first show under your new moniker or new/old moniker. They have gotten up to 1,197 tickets sold for the show as of 8 hours ago from WrestleTix. They set it up for 1,400. There's a couple tickets still left out there, so it looks like they are going to get pretty damn close to where they need to get to. But
that's a good house for them.
Yeah, that's not bad. And that's
a good house for them.
And that's something they said that they wanted to do this year was get more, run bigger, newer venues. So a good start for them, I suppose.
Also a good start. So the aforementioned Hammerstone will get a chance here against Josh Alexander. So maybe they have signed him and they just haven't announced it yet. Because he the goodbye speech in MLW was sounded pretty definitive to me. But Alex Shelley defends against Moose. Trinity and Jordan Grace. A lot of people think Jordan Grace is going to win that. I was told, that Trinity's final, she is going to be at the Orlando tapings though. So she's not done yet. She'll finish up at the Orlando tapings. So maybe she beats Jordan Grace and then loses at the tapings, but she's going to lose that title soon.
She's Royal Rumble. She's showing up for the Royal Rumble for sure, right?
You would think.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. So, look for a title change there. It seems like the best place to do it. That seems like who they want to do it. Sabin, Kushida, and Vikingo, 3-way for the X Division title. That looks like fun. Ace Austin and Chris Bay versus Grizzled Young Vets versus Rascals versus Mike Bailey and Trent Seven. I don't need 19 people in the match.
Every Rascals match must have 6 other people in it. It just can't. Yeah. Whatever.
Well, the women's match too for the number 1 contender. Like same thing. There's a million women in it. Alicia Edwards, Giselle Shaw, Zaya Brookside, Danny Luna, Tasha Steeles, and Jody Threat.
That's an Ultimate X match? Hold on a minute.
Ultimate X with those. It's going to be a mess.
Woof.
Good luck.
Whoa.
Alicia Edwards scaling the fucking wire.
Oh, boy. Zaya Brookside. Not exactly.
Yeah. Will Alicia Edwards even attempt to scale the wire?
No, hell no.
I bet she won't.
Hell no.
I don't know. See, this is what I mean. I would just take whoever they have planned to win, build a program against one of the other ones, and have a fucking singles match. You know what I mean? Like, or do this, but then don't do a 4-way for the tag. Like, it's too many multi-person matches on one show.
Right. They've had that problem for a long time, too.
Yeah. And then a 3-way for the X Division, too. It's like, God, I don't need a million people in every match. So...
Yeah, Chris Sabin versus Vikingo sounds awesome. Like Chris Sabin versus Vikingo. If I gave you that match, you would say, that's kind of fun. All right, here we go. Oh, also Kushida's in the match. It's like, fuck. All right.
Yeah, why? Fine. Why do we got to crowbar someone else into it? It's very frustrating. PCO versus Dirty Dango. And then, so that's the show. So that's Hard to Kill. We'll talk about next week. Now, the NWA, this Paranoia show. Rich, tell people how they can order NWA.
So, the way you can order NWA Paranoia is you get yourself to Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and go to Revolution Live, because it is an NWA, quote, signature live event. And that's it. It is not available on Fight. It's not available on pay-per-view. I think the only way you can watch this is if you go to Revolution Live in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, January 13th.
Buy a ticket to see this 13-match extravaganza with 7 title matches. Now, listen.
Oh, God.
I think NWA, and maybe I'm out of the loop because I don't pay a lot of attention to Twitter anymore, they quietly dropped pay-per-view. Has this been, talked about? Because
I don't know. It's weird.
Give you the evidence. So, as you said, this is a signature live event, right? No way to order it. They're having their Hard Time show in February or March. I can't remember. I think it's March 3rd or something.
I believe that's right. March 2nd for Hard Times.
That's been one of their tentpole pay-per-view events. Hard Times, going back to the Lagana days. That is also, Rich, a signature live event. Not on pay-per-view. And it is also being advertised as a television taping for the CW. So I think what they are doing is they are out of the pay-per-view business and they're replacing them with these signature live events, which then double as television tapings.
Makes sense. Yeah. Because I see the CW logo on the Paranoia poster as well.
Yes. And they're having, I believe, a second day of tapings in Fort Lauderdale, I think. But the Hard Time show is being advertised as come see the match is being taped for the CW. So they have moved away from pay-per-view. And they're so under the radar now that no one is talking about
right, that's a pretty big story. And the fact that they're not even on Fight, they're not on anything. They're not
on anything.
Right.
I checked Fight/Triller today.
Nothing
there
on
is
schedule.
Nothing on schedule. Not this, not Hard Times. They're off pay-per-view. And it seems as though it's permanent because Hard Times was this one. You could argue, all right, what the hell is this? But Hard Times has always been a pay-per-view.
Yeah.
And if you remember last pay-per-view, they did 219 buys. So you're talking a couple $1,000s, and then you're splitting it. Maybe Fight said, this isn't worth our time or production or money to do this for a couple $1,000. Because Ian Hamilton in our Discord today noted that OVW used to have pay-per-views on Fight, and they don't have them anymore either. So maybe Fight is cutting the fat. Look, I don't know anything, but that could be the case. Maybe they're like these promotions that aren't drawing. It's not worth the bandwidth. It's not worth our time.
I think
it's not worth the.
I think Fight in their relationship with the wrestling business is going to be very, very interesting to monitor over the next couple of weeks and months. I can tell you from the back end of certain things that they used to do to entice wrestling websites to help promote pay-per-views is no longer an option and no longer available.
Yeah.
So
yeah, they used to work with the sites, including ours, very closely in terms of, media passes to, media codes to cover the shows, which is obviously standard business, good business. They haven't done that in a while, right? When's the last time
they haven't done that with us in probably about a year or so? And then they had an affiliate program where obviously if people bought based off your codes or off your links or whatever, we always said voicesofwrestling.com/fight or whatever. That has been deactivated as of this week. Now, does that mean they're going to a different affiliate program? Does that mean that just they're maybe reworking the terms or something like that? I don't know, but it's been a week and I haven't heard anything. So I don't know what's going on with Triller/Fight/ whatever, but a lot less wrestling events on there. I'll definitely say if you look through their schedule. So I wonder if like you said, they got down and looked at it and said, why are we wasting our time with these things that are getting less than 1,000 buys? Like, what are we doing here? Let's focus on, because Triller's business is those big time dumb boxing shows. Yeah, the dumb, like, here's Roy Jones Jr. versus this guy, and it's like, okay, all right, you know what I mean? It's just like these dumb boxing matches that are just at this point like
All Brothers and shit
right,
like that.
right. Just these really weird stuff, and I know that they're involved in sports a little bit as well. So I do wonder if maybe the wrestling arm of Triller is starting to dissipate a little bit, and this might be one of the first signs of it. But Hard to Kill is still on Fight this weekend though, so that's one that is still there. But yeah, as far as other ones, I don't know. Interesting to see.
No, yeah. TNA is there. MLW is there. And NWA has no presence. Now, could that have been a condition of the CW deal? Because there's also this factor.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Now, look, if CW is paying Corgan for exclusivity, right? Or the deal is, all right, you could be on YouTube only and whatever the case may be, I'm sure that whatever they're paying him is more than what he was making selling 200 pay-per-views. You know what I mean? So that could be it too. It could be either that Triller is getting out of the micro pay-per-view business, or it could be that the CW has some kind of exclusivity deal, because it appears as though these shows are being taped for matches for the CW. So, and if that's the case, that's a good deal for Corgan, because he always talks about wanting to get off YouTube. His show is still on YouTube, but the CW app is going to give him less exposure than YouTube would. But the CW app may be paying him for the content, which then makes up for the lack of exposure. So, we'll see. And then we'll see the reality show. We still don't know whether that's going to be on CW proper or the CW app. So there's a lot of different things. The bottom line is this. They appear to be out of the pay-per-view business. That much we know. So, unfortunately, that means no more NWA pay-per-view reviews.
I know.
Which I know that has you broken up.
God damn it.
But you're full of shit. You hated it.
I'll make up. You know what? No, you know what? There was always something charming about NWA. I always came on here, like, while I was watching it, I was like, kill me, this sucks. But then when it was over, I was like, there's just, I always said, there's nothing else like the NWA out there. I watch so much wrestling, and all of it feels the same and looks the same. And then there's the NWA. It's its own fucking universe. You know what I mean? And in the best way and the worst ways. It's its own thing.
Let's check that CW app before we hear streaming on the CW. Let's see what they got up here. Sports. The old sports-based NWA product.
Yeah.
Let's see what we got going in here.
Remember when they were bragging about how their episodes getting uploaded to CW, and we did a check-in and they'd only gotten up to September?
Yeah.
They're still in September, so.
They haven't added anything.
No, they haven't added anything. Wait, hold on a minute. Hold on a stinking minute. October. They're up to October. Maybe that's where they were before. I think they were up to October before.
Yeah. So we'll see after Paranoia. If the Paranoia matches start getting uploaded immediately, then maybe this new deal has finally kicked in. And, they've got some kind of exclusivity to the NWA matches. So I don't know. I guess we'll find out, next week if, these matches start popping up, what Power is going to look like, number one.
Mm-hmm.
And then if the CW... Right. And maybe this Paranoia show will be on the CW, but again, it's marketed as what are they calling it? Premium.
A signature live event.
Signature live event.
Signature
yes. Live event, right? So I don't know. Gotta wait and see.
The show's got a bunch of. We don't have to go through the names.
No,
here.
I'm not going. No, I refuse to go over.
Yeah, it's not going to be on pay-per-view, and we're not going to review it. The main event is EC3 versus Matt Cardona in the NWA World's Heavyweight Title. Quote: the ultimate match of death match.
Okay,
great. Matt Cardona can talk about being the hardcore king, Joe. I for one cannot wait for the Matt Cardona promo where he talks about being the real king of the death matches.
I am so out on that guy. I'm bored by him.
Oh, he's been doing the same gimmick for 4 years. How could you possibly be bored of this? Come on.
Yeah, it's.
Remember how unique it was at the time? Remember in 2020 when we were like, man, how cool is this Matt Cardona character? He's going out there in the indies. The idea is that he doesn't want to do a death match, and then he's getting, stuck in them, and he's bleeding and all, and we're like, oh man, we've been doing this for 4 years now. It's the same gimmick. Yeah. We heard you.
Yeah, it's very
we got it.
Too. Yeah, it's very off-putting. Yeah, but 13 matches, 7 title matches. You want to talk about too many titles?
Yeah,
it's just
no, thank you. No, thank you. No, thank you on that. So I'm
Birchall. They brought Birchall, Pirate Paul.
No way. Are you kidding? Where is he? What's he called?
Pirate Paul. Yeah, he's not doing the pirate thing. He's Birchall.
I'm not seeing him.
Swear to God.
Where is he here?
Swear to God, he's on this show. He's wrestling Silas Mason.
let me see. Title. It takes a while to scroll through this entire list of guys. Oh my God, that is Paul Birchall. Holy shit. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, you haven't seen the clips?
No.
He just has like a shaved head and has generic
tights.
Hey,
when you can bring in Paul Burchill and take away the pirate gimmick, you just got to do it.
Where did they find Burchill anyway?
Yeah, hold on a minute. Let me go on the cage match and see what Paul Burchill's been up to. Is he like the Stro? Remember we got the Stro some bookings after talking about him on the show?
Yeah, I think he's sick. I want to drop that topic.
Oh, is he? No.
I don't think he's doing well.
Ah, crap. Well.
Last I heard, anyway.
No, we got him some. The Stro. Okay. Okay. So the Stro last. Oh, okay. Hold on here. A very wild ride for Burchill. So Burchill worked a shot for OVW in September of 2017, an 8-man ladder match. Then he took a year off, came back in October of 2018 for OVW. Then in 2023, he faced Gangrel at WCPBTW. Rolls off the tongue.
Okay. That sounds,
yeah, World Classic Professional Big Time Wrestling,
of course.
WCPBTW, of course.
Now that you spelled out the acronym,
right.
Of course.
Oh, of course. That's World Classic Professional Big Time Wrestling. So he faced Gangrel in September of 2023, and then in November of 2023 popped up to a team with Trevor Murdoch, take on Jack Stan and Tim Storm. So somebody called somebody and got Paul Burchill a booking. But yeah, so he's wrestled exactly 3 times in the last 5 years, 6, 7, 8, a lot of years. I don't know why Paul Burchill. No idea. No clue. Couldn't tell you, but what did he do to get a title shot? Everyone's getting on Tony about Hook. No one's on Adam Billy for Paul Burchill getting a title shot out of it.
Oh my God! Now Tony should tweet that. Now that'd be funny.
I'll DM him. And mention it. So Burchill looks pretty good for his age. He looks pretty good though. He looks like a guy who's out of the wrestling business. He looks like healthy and looks like he sleeps. Yeah, good for him. So
that means it then. Well, buy a ticket to Paranoia.
Get over to Fort Lauderdale for the NWA Signature Live event, January 13th from Revolution Live. You get EC3 Matt Cardona and Burchill versus Silas Mason. So, all right, there you go. So that is NWA Paranoia. We will never watch it because I guess we'll maybe watch it on the CW, but I don't know. If I'm committing myself to weekly CW
you're never gonna watch it.
I don't know.
You're never going to watch
I'm never going to watch it. Yeah. I could sit down and after you forced me to watch an NWA pay-per-view, I don't know that I could sit down and watch weekly NWA on the CW, but hey, we'll see what happens. And that's TNA Hard to Kill, obviously coming up this weekend. Battle in the Valley, a lot going on this weekend, a lot going on in the world of professional wrestling. We'll be covering it all at voicesofwrestling.com. Of course, also, if you want more bonus Joe and Rich, Flagship, patreon.com, voiceswrestling.com/Patreon, patreon.com/Voices of Wrestling, a brand new series or episode of the Bret Hart versus Owen Hart series, Bret versus Owen coming up hopefully next week or so. I should have that ready. I got a new written series I'm doing over there at flagshippatreon.com called 40, 30, 20, 10, going through major wrestling moments that happened either 40, 30, 20, or 10 years ago this month. Did 40 years just a couple of days ago, and that was Hulk Hogan defeating the Iron Sheik to win the WWF title. And you might think, God, I know 1,000 things about that. I don't want to learn anything more about it. I think I go in some interesting directions about it and give you some good backstory that you might not know. And I know a lot of people have already reached out saying, holy shit, I had no idea that he was that big of a star in the AWA. I had no idea that he was that big of a star in his first WWF run. I had no idea that he was in WWF for only less than 30 days before he won the title the next time he came in. So we try to attack it from a different angle there, but that's going on there. Thursday Dynamite reviews, Jovember to remember, all of our other bonus audio available for you guys over there at flagshippatreon.com, patreon.com/Voices of Wrestling, and voicesofwrestling.com/Patreon, including later this month, Royal Rumble Instant Reaction. So if you want an instant reaction to Royal Rumble immediately following the show, it's going to be available for you there at flagshippatreon.com. So that's it. voicesofwrestling.com for all this stuff. voicesofwrestling.com/Discord if you want to join the conversation. YouTube, Voice of Wrestling Podcast Network, all that other good stuff. That's it for us. We're way over time. So that is Joe. I'm Rich. We'll talk to you next time on the Flagship Podcast. Take care.
Hey kids, do you like wrestling? Well, we like wrestling too. We are Shake Them Ropes here on the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Myself and Chris Novembrino kind of doing a lazy river of wrestling criticism, going through the news and whatever happened in stateside television wrestling. And also, you know what? Sometimes we just like to watch old stuff and talk about that too. Love for you to give us a listen. If you haven't already, we are Shake Them Ropes here on the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network.